Chapter 1045. The primordial chaos sacred realm was an extremely vast divine artifact. Compared to any Tao artifact, it was already not easy to activate the primordial chaos sacred realm to open a channel and absorb items. Gradually, his realm reached a certain height of the celestial immortal realm. His divine abilities and qigong were also constantly improving. Overall, he still felt that it was very empty. He still had to continue cultivating. Xianhuang, Six Paths Pagoda. Among all Dharma treasures, apart from the primordial chaos sacred realm, there was only one Dharma treasure that Su Fong cared about the most. His natal Dharma treasure, the Xianhuang, Six Paths Pagoda. Unexpectedly, after just activating it to its natal state, many of the arrays in the Dharma treasure space were no match for Su Fong's current strength. This was the overall strength of the Xianhuang, Six Paths Pagoda. It was no longer comparable to his strength and realm. Fortunately, I placed 3 Earth-type spirit stones into the pagoda previously. Now, the pagoda is at a certain level of middle-grade Tao artifact. Only when I completely upgrade the Six Paths Pagoda's arrays and quality will it reach a level corresponding to my strength. After reaching his natal state, Su Fong began to upgrade the Six Paths Pagoda's internal arrays. He also used the Yang Immortal to take out some gems with different attributes and place them into the Void Dust Cauldron to refine. When these materials were refined into liquid, they turned into a spirit liquid that emitted spiritual energy and surged out of Su Fong's body. Then, when Su Fong's body emitted the aura of a 6-story pagoda, the spirit liquid was instantly sucked into the pagoda's doors. Su Fong and the 6-story pagoda's aura shook at the same time. Some black smoke and spiritual smoke kept rolling out, especially the 6-story pagoda's aura and sparks. At this moment, as it devoured a large amount of spirit liquid, Su Fong could feel the Xianhuang, Six Paths Pagoda's materials transforming. It was like a human breaking through the impurities in the placenta. Many of the impurities shattered and turned into smoke. Of course, it was not easy to improve the pagoda's quality by much. Next, Su Fong refined various materials over and over again. It was either immortal stones, gems, or materials that contained the 6 attributes of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and lightning. The external arrays also maintained the spiritual energy in the desolate land and poured it into Su Fong's body. He upgraded his Dharma treasure and became stronger at the same time. After a period of time, the imposing aura of the 6th-floored pagoda disappeared, and the surrounding junior commanders were temporarily sucked into the Void Dust Cauldron. The Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, the Starry Daylight Sword, and the Flaming Cloud spiritual gourd floated inside the Cauldron Transformation Cauldron, continuing to use the Cauldron Transformation power to slowly upgrade their quality. The 2 puppets disappeared as well. Tung Ba leaped and appeared in midair, waiting for Su Fong to fly out from the deep mountains. I finally have a certain level of strength. I reckon I'm now at the Heavenly Immortal Realm. Since the Heavenly Immortal Realm and the Grotto Immortal Realm are 2 completely different realms, the Grotto Immortal Realm mainly cultivates the Heavenly Grotto. They use the Heavenly Grotto to absorb the essence of heaven and earth and begin to cultivate the power of the world. As for the Heavenly Immortal Realm, they use the power of the world to slowly fuse with heaven and earth. They can extract the essence of heaven and earth and borrow the power of the stars. However, they need enough power of the world to do so. Now that my Yin-Yang world's power has surpassed the Heavenly Immortal Realm, I should be able to borrow the power of the stars and extract the essence of heaven and earth. He thought that he would be in a hurry to return to the constellation of 9 heavens and get away from this troublesome place. Unexpectedly, Su Fong slowly floated up and met Tung Ba in midair. He looked around and felt that he was above the desolate land. "Master, you are..." The big goblin Tung Ba saw that Su Fong was suddenly releasing a domineering aura. Su Fong waved his hand, and immortal pills filled with spiritual energy appeared. "Tung Ba, here are 100 high-grade pills. Take them and cultivate. If you don't have enough, just ask. I don't have much now, but I have a lot of resources. If you want Dharma treasures, just ask. You can choose any high-grade Dharma treasure you want. Thank you, Master. What I need the most are pills. Middle-grade and high-grade pills are fine. As for Dharma treasures, I obtained a meteor hammer in the past. It is also a high-grade Dharma treasure. It is very heavy and has a very simple attack. It is most suitable for me. When Master obtains other Dharma treasures in the future, I will ask for more. Tumba did not stand on ceremony and happily accepted the pills. For a big goblin like him, relying on his own cultivation speed was too slow. The reason he took the risk in the Huangze astral realm was to kill humans and snatch pills from them. Because the big goblin could not refine pills, Tung Ba felt that he had obtained a treasure when he saw 100 high-grade immortal pills. These were pills that could not be obtained by killing a heaven immortal. Even heaven immortals could not refine high-grade pills. I want to see how powerful it is to enter the heaven immortal realm. Su Fong flashed forward and released his entire aura in the star fog. Next, he used his great perfection ability to sense an area of more than 20 miles. He just happened to sense a few cultivators rushing towards the desolate land. Extracting essence from heaven and earth is to use true chi and control divine power. I can directly control the spiritual energy from nature and turn it into a part of my true chi. Borrowing essence from the stars is more difficult. I have to wait until I reach the state of extracting essence from heaven and earth. When I am in the state of extracting essence from heaven and earth, I can sense and control the attributes of the spiritual energy. Then, I can use all the power in nature to explode into a divine power. Su Fong understood the abilities that a heaven immortal could master. At this moment, he released his divine power and control ability together with his great perfection ability. This time, he could sense an area of more than 20 miles. However, he could only control the spiritual energy of heaven and earth within a 1-mile radius. This 1-mile radius was filled with star fog, and within the star fog, there was star sand. Soon, he used his powerful control ability to absorb waves and waves of spiritual energy from the 1 mile of star sand. Although it was not shocking, it was more than a lot of people. This was extracting essence from heaven and earth. He could extract the spiritual energy of heaven and earth from nature in a short period of time. Then, he used the star technique. There were various attributes of spiritual energy and substances in nature. Su Fong sensed that most of the spiritual energy he controlled was earth and fire attribute spiritual energy. He immediately used the illusory fire cloud. With his magic power and primordial spirit, he began to control the surrounding void. He waved his hand and grabbed. Swoosh! His right hand grabbed at the seemingly calm void in front of him. Below him, there happened to be a huge rock that came out from the dense forest. After this grab, the void 10 feet above the huge rock suddenly trembled. The red Xianguang rolled and exploded. In an instant, it turned into a burning 5-fingered cloud of fire and condensed in the void out of thin air. At this moment, he released his great perfection ability in time to check the state of extracting essence from heaven and earth. Most of the spiritual energy that was extracted from the 1-mile radius turned into a burning palm print. The remaining spiritual energy was spiritual energy of other attributes. Almost all the spiritual energy that was extracted from the 1-mile radius was absorbed by this burning 5-fingered cloud of fire. This state is borrowing essence from stars. When I reach the heaven immortal realm, it is indeed different from the usual supernatural powers. Usually, when I use supernatural powers, I use the body as the center. The supernatural powers come from the body, and then I control the aura around the body to explode the supernatural powers. However, borrowing essence from stars directly uses extracting essence from heaven and earth to control the spiritual energy within a certain range. In this controlled space, it turns into supernatural powers and is directly born from the void. Supernatural powers come from the spiritual energy in the void, not from the body. By using supernatural powers to extract essence from heaven and earth and borrowing essence from stars, Su Fong had truly stepped into the threshold of the heaven immortal realm and become a heaven immortal. The difference between a heaven immortal and a cave immortal was that obvious. Most of the supernatural powers that cave immortals used mainly the true energy in their bodies. On the other hand, a part of the supernatural powers of heaven immortals came from nature. This saved them more true energy and condensed their energy than cave immortals. It was easier for them to survive in a vast world. One realm was the difference of a world. Qi. He compressed his aura and sucked Tung Ba into the void cauldron. Then, he stepped on the feather fan and flew a mile away. In a few breaths, he disappeared into the depths of the star fog. 3 years later, in the constellation of 9 heavens, the huge Tao field floating in the depths of the outer realm's void followed Su Fong's sword. He hurriedly activated the token and entered the Tao field's barrier. Inside the Tao field, the treasured artifact Mystic Realm. Outside the immortal fog, Su Fong stopped. After passing through the immortal fog, he would reach the treasured artifact Mystic Realm. He then used the Heaven Immortal's perception to look around. He didn't expect the treasured artifact Mystic Realm's Tao field to be so vast. He couldn't see through much. The constellation of 9 heavens was indeed a big force. Buzz! The token suddenly moved. After it was activated, it turned out that baby Huangfu Fei, and Wang Yuzhen had sent him thoughts. They all wanted him to meet them. There was also Huangfu Ju's thoughts, but they were also cold. After Su Fong replied to each of their thoughts, he decided to return to the treasured artifact Mystic Realm first. He would go to the celestial pool peak to cultivate for a while before meeting them. After flying into the Tao field's barrier, his right arm moved shockingly. His purple Qi Dharma perception responded to the great pregnant purple Qi that came from the treasured artifact Mystic Realm. Great pregnant purple Qi. Su Fong was constantly thinking about this kind of power. Cultivating the primordial violet Qi could increase one's luck. The temptation of such a wonderful power to Su Fong was self-evident. After a few breaths of time, he arrived at the valley. He sensed the auras of many Huangfu Tao field disciples. He also recognized some of them, such as Huangfu Ju. Yes, when he arrived at his cave residence, his face was suddenly filled with doubt. This was because the aura of the cave's barrier was not familiar to him. It also wasn't his handprint. The key was that there were 2 life auras inside. Clearly, there were people inside the cave. Red Kite had already left. How could there be others? Furthermore, the cave had suddenly changed. It was completely different from before. Did he come to the wrong cave? Brother, take care. Coincidentally, 2 cultivators just walked out of the cave's seal. At this moment, Su Fong and the 2 cultivators from Huangfu Tao field clashed in the air. These 2 were also geniuses who had passed the competition and became the Eternal Star Sons. Although he didn't have any contact with them, he still had some impression of them. It's Huangfu Shaoying. The 2 people who came out of the cave were also surprised. However, one of them smiled coldly. This cave is already mine. You can find another one. When Su Fong heard this, he understood a little. He asked faintly, "How is my cave residence yours?" The disciple who was about to leave looked at him disdainfully. "This is an order from Senior Apprentice Brother Ju. Your cave is now Huangfu Rui's. All the formations in the cave will be rebuilt by Huangfu Rui with Senior Apprentice Brother Ju's help. It's still your cave. Leave and find another one." Huangfu Rui, right? Su Fong looked at the arrogant disciple outside the cave. "This cave is mine, so it's mine. Everything is first come, first served. You're forcibly occupying this cave. I can go find the higher-ups, but I hope you'll take the initiative to give it up." That disciple, called Huangfu Rui, said fiercely, "You can go find Senior Apprentice Brother Ju. He's the higher-ups in charge of us. See if he's willing to stand on your side." The other disciple roared, "Senior Apprentice Brother Ju personally helped build the cave. How could he help you?" "That's right. You're the first genius to become the Eternal Star Son this time. How did you end up like this?" "Huh. Then I won't go find the higher-ups." Then scram. Listen to Senior Apprentice Brother Ju in the future. Otherwise, you won't even be able to enter the heavenly pool peak. You don't even know how much weight you have. You don't know what's good for you. Huangfu Rui and that disciple were even more excessive. They were constantly mocking and ridiculing Su Fang. Chapter 1046. Huang Furue and his disciples were obviously looking down on this batch's first genius to become the eternal star sun. Of course, it wasn't as simple as looking down on him, forcefully occupying the cave. They even dared to suppress him so openly. Was this just ordinary contempt? Su Fang still didn't get angry and didn't seem to take any further action. However, his tone started to become aggressive. I don't know what's good for me. I'll give you some more time. This is the treasured artifact secret realm, not Huangfu Dojo. We're all disciples of the same dojo. I clearly remember Elder Chiu telling us that disciples of the same dojo should help each other in the treasured artifact secret realm. You're just a clown. There's still a place for you in the treasured artifact secret realm. Huang Furue didn't care about disciples of the same dojo helping each other. Whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, a group of people flew over from above. Su Fang looked around and saw more than 20 people. They were all disciples of Huangfu Dojo. Most of them were low-level heavenly immortals. None of them were cave immortals. Obviously, these people were this batch's eternal star sons. Looking at Huang Furue and his disciple, they had a strange smile. Obviously, these people were deliberately notified by them. Of course, it wasn't a good thing. The person in the lead looked at Su Fang coldly. Sure enough, this is the genius who made one of the top 10 eternal star sons, Nangong Xiu, suffer a great loss in the star origin formation. It really is this kid. Ever since the Millennium competition, everyone has been talking about the top 10 eternal star sons. However, they always mention this kid. Huangfu Dojo is also a follower of young Master Bao. It's a pity that he can't follow young Master Bao into the great ancient dojo to eat and drink. The top 10 eternal star sons won't come to the treasured artifact secret realm either. After that disciple finished speaking, the surrounding disciples looked at Su Fang as if he was a rare object. In a flash, they came to Huangfu Rue and his disciples' side. Su Fang snorted disdainfully at these people's thoughts. You're purposely trying to embarrass me by forcefully occupying the immortal's cave, yet you're still acting so self-righteous? One of the disciples was clearly in the same league as Huangfu Rue. Huangfu Shaoying, this is not Huangfu Peak. There is no young Master Bao to support you. Even if you're still Bao's follower, this is still the treasured artifact secret realm. It is controlled by other senior brothers. Do you still think this is Huangfu's dojo? Hee. We've all heard from Senior Brother Ju and the other senior brothers that you've offended Nangong Xiu, which means you've offended many high-level disciples of the treasured artifact secret realm. Why don't I see young Master Bao speaking up for you? If it weren't for the fact that you're a disciple of the same Dao sect, I would have broken your dog legs long ago. Brother Rue, this person's limelight has already passed. I heard that he is still at the low-level cave immortal realm. His strongest ability is only at the yang immortal realm. His strength is not that great. Nangong Xiu is a good example. She was defeated by this kid in the star origin array, but in the arena, she defeated countless disciples and dominated. This is your immortal's cave, so you can totally drive this kid away. Yeah, this kid is too arrogant. We were not on the same peak before, but now we are in the same Dao sect. I didn't like him following young Master Bao to intimidate others. Today is a good opportunity. Brother Rui, those disciples were like wolves and tigers. They all revolved around Huangfu Rue and urged him to teach Su Fang a lesson. Everyone kicks a man who is down. It was not just because of this. In the past, everyone in Huangfu Dao sect knew about baby Huangfu, and many people knew about the existence of Su Fang. It was estimated that no one liked young Master Bao style. Su Fang also became the target of jealousy in the eyes of these people. Later, in the 10,000 years competition, Su Fang unexpectedly defeated the genius Nangong Xiu and became famous. He became the eternal star sun that everyone knew, which made many disciples envious and jealous. Now, in the precious artifact secret realm, the famous person in the past was not valued by the high-level disciples and even offended some people. It was a good opportunity for these people to show that they were superior. Everyone wanted to step on Su Fang's head to satisfy the dark desires in their hearts. When you were good, others envied you. But once you lost your power, you would become the target of ridicule. Su Fang was now in this kind of environment. Suddenly, the disciple who walked out of the immortal's cave with Huangfu Rue shouted in public, "Brother Rue, since you don't want to do it, I will do it for you. What do you think?" Okay. Unexpectedly, Huangfu Rue immediately agreed. This person did not say anything. His divine light was shining, as if he wanted to step on a famous disciple in front of everyone. This was one of the happiest things in life. Those people were watching the show. They also knew that Su Fang could not be a match for a celestial immortal disciple. They estimated that when Su Fang really fell, these people would come up and give him a kick. This disciple walked over step by step, releasing starlight, true chi around him. He laughed sinisterly in his heart. No matter what, this person used to be the most famous person in the 10,000 years competition. If I step on him publicly here and destroy his limelight, won't everyone look up to me? Huangfu Rue is afraid of this and that. It's difficult for him to achieve great things. He actually doesn't know how to cherish such a good opportunity. This is an excellent opportunity for me to climb up. Moreover, senior brother Ju doesn't like this person. He suddenly cupped his fist to Su Fang in public. Huangfu shouting, "Don't blame me. It's you who doesn't know what's good for you. Haha, show me your true ability. Since you can defeat the 10 eternal geniuses, then you are not a weak chicken." When Su Fang heard this, he was still indifferent, but he still responded, "I'm a weak chicken, but I'm not a weakling that you can step on. You took over the cave first, and now you want to publicly embarrass me. If I don't make a move, you will go up the roof and tear down the tiles." This person is tired of living. After the disciples behind heard this, they all smiled. The disciple in front suddenly sped up his pace, releasing starlight, true chi around him and merging it into his arms. Star Essence Void Fist. Let's see if you can still be stubborn. 3 zhang 1 zhang in the blink of an eye. The opponent's attack turned into a starlight fist. As the disciple rushed over, it suddenly came from 10 zhang away to 1 zhang in front of Su Fang. Such a short distance was enough to be smashed by a celestial immortal disciple. That disciple and the people behind couldn't wait to see Su Fang fall under the starlight fist. This star essence void fist was indeed overbearing. As soon as it was used, it was obvious that it wanted to take down Su Fang in one move. Su Fang was still calm. The moment the starlight fist swallowed him, he nimbly used his movement technique to step out of the flame traces. Under the attack of the starlight fist, he dodged with one step and arrived a few zhang away from the right side. When the starlight fist hit a place where there was no one, it suddenly exploded and shook. This starlight fist caused a big commotion, causing most of the valley to shake. The rumbling sound echoed in the mountain stream. Everyone didn't expect Su Fang to be able to dodge the attack. Moreover, they could tell that Su Fang didn't use any divine ability, as if it was just an ordinary step. How could they see that Su Fang was using the fire cloud step? It was just a very casual step, and he dodged the attack of the celestial immortal disciple. You're really lucky. The one with the ugliest expression was the disciple who had attacked. He felt both sides of his face burning, as if he had been slapped by Su Fang in front of everyone. Previously, he had only wanted to step on Su Fang and not do anything to Su Fang. But now he was furious. It wasn't as simple as stepping on Su Fang. Su Fang smiled at that disciple. Now I know why you came to the precious item secret realm. I won't waste words with you. I don't know if you can get lucky again. That disciple didn't listen. He only wanted to finish Su Fang as soon as possible. That's because you're not a genius. You're just an idiot. If you really were a genius, you wouldn't have come to the precious item secret realm, but the grand ancient Taoist right. Then didn't you also come to the precious item secret realm? I'm not the same as you. In front of Elder Chio, I have the right to choose, but you don't. Furthermore, I came here because I like refining. As for you and these disciples, you're just a bunch of good-for-nothings, a bunch of trash. You're just delaying my cultivation time. You're still a madman. Madman, take this. These words thoroughly enraged that disciple, as well as the 20 disciples on the other side. He once again used the celestial essence void image fist, and this time he shot out a starlight true chi that was twice as powerful as before. When the starlight true chi followed his stride, it turned into a huge starlight fist, causing the edge of the valley to constantly collapse. But this time, just as he attacked, Su Fong, who had been in a passive position, suddenly took a second step with the same afterimage footwork. Su Fong, with the afterimage footwork, suddenly stepped in front of the disciple who had used the starlight fist. That person shouted, "You're courting death!" Pa pa pa. At this moment, Su Fong released more burning flames under his feet, showing an extraordinary footwork. With one step, he stepped into the starlight fist. It was as if he was running in a huge and terrifying divine ability. With one step, he crushed a large part of the starlight fist. When he took the second step, the disciple who controlled the starlight fist could not believe it. He looked at Su Fong, who was extremely fast and was not shackled or suppressed by the divine ability. He crushed a larger area, and this crushing force shook him back. "I'll give you a hand." Seeing that Su Fong was about to catch up with the remaining divine might of that disciple, Huang Fu Rue, who was watching the fun from behind, suddenly shouted fiercely and used sword chi to attack. The remaining disciples were all dumbfounded. What they never expected was that Su Fong, who was supposed to suffer a big loss and be defeated by an expert in one move, would suppress the expert in just a few moves. Su Fong suddenly turned around and ignored the injured disciple. Instead, he stared at Huang Fu Rue. "You're the clown. What does a low-level heavenly immortal count for? You're just a dog. What's the use of your extravagant words? You're still going to be defeated by my meteor killing sword." Huang Fu Rue was stronger than that disciple, and his cultivation had reached the peak of the first Dao heavenly immortal realm. He was an expert who was preparing to break through to the second Dao heavenly immortal realm. He could be considered an expert among the eternal star sons. The meteor-killing sword he used turned into thousands of sword chi resonating with sword chi. It had an impressive attack range of nearly 300 meters, and it wanted to swallow and crush Su Fong. "I'm going to break your Dao path." Huang Fu Rue's gaze became extremely fierce. Moreover, this move was his full strength. He was not a spoiled brat. He had seen the entire process of Su Fong's attack. He knew very well that Su Fong being able to suppress Nangong Xiu was definitely not a coincidence. Since that was the case, he would defeat Su Fong in one move. Chi. However, Su Fong still did not sit still and wait for death. He still used flame steps, but the flames were a bit stronger than before. From the first step to the second step, Su Fong actually surpassed Huang Fu Rue in terms of overall speed, and stepped into the offensive divine ability of the meteor-killing sword. With the third step, a burst of flame divine might suddenly exploded, and the huge sword chi attack instantly collapsed. Huang Fu Rue was also buried within. Chapter 1047. The surrounding valley was also completely shaken. As for the disciples on the other side, they were all shocked by the shattering aura and could only retreat. How is this possible? I also fought in the arena and defeated my opponent to become the Eternal Star Son. How is this possible? Still in the midst of a shaking of the sword chi fragments, Huang Fu Rue suddenly swooped down from the place where the fragments engulfed. He rushed out with blood all over his body. The way he looked at Su Fong was like that of a starving beast. How is this possible? Huang Fu Rue is actually not a match for a cave immortal. Who knows? That Huang Fu Xiaoying is very capable. He defeated the two of them without even using his strength. It has nothing to do with us. Let's just watch from the side. The disciples who retreated further away in the air were discussing in private. The outcome has already been decided. Is there a need to continue fighting? Su Fong stood with his hands behind his back, his domineering aura leaking out. No, when I have never fought. With your strength, there is no need for me to make a move. Facts speak louder than words. Do you still have an excuse? Do you think I will just let it go like this? Huang Fu Rue was bleeding, his body was extremely stiff. That's your business. If there really is a mad dog that keeps pestering me, I will not be polite and beat him up. Not to mention that Su Fong was going to make a move this time. He was going to decisively take care of these people. What's going on? At this moment, a group of aggressive figures suddenly flew over from the mountainside of the valley. Senior brothers are here, someone exclaimed. Even Huang Fu Rue was very surprised, but he still had a very sinister smile on his face. Only Su Fong was not anxious. He was still very quietly floating in the air where the remnant sword chi was about to disappear. It was as if he already knew that someone was coming. A strong and imposing aura covered the area. In an instant, a familiar figure came over with more than 10 high-level disciples. This figure was Huang Fuju. The disciples beside him were all disciples who entered the treasure mystic realm around 10,000 years ago. The weakest cultivation was estimated to be at the peak of the heaven immortal realm. Most of them had surpassed the heaven immortal realm. Wush, the disciple who was previously taught a lesson by Su Fong, rushed to the front of Huang Fuju and the others in a sorry state. He bowed and pointed at Su Fong. This disciple wanted to occupy the immortal's cave by force. Without saying anything, he attacked me, Huang Fu Rue, and flouted the rules. Senior martial brothers, please uphold justice for us. Really? When Huang Fuju heard this, he first glanced at Su Fong, then looked at the others, and finally looked at Huang Fu Rue, who was covered in blood. The other disciples also quickly flew over. Senior brother Ju, all of this is true. We saw with our own eyes that Huang Fu Shaoying attacked the Immortal's Cave and forcibly occupied Huang Fu Rue's Immortal's Cave. After that, he was unable to open the cave abode and became flustered and exasperated. He attacked the two senior brothers, and he even used a heavy hand. These disciples also spoke up for Huang Fu and Rue. Senior martial brother, please uphold justice for us. Even Huang Fu Rue looked like he had suffered a loss and felt wronged. Without waiting for Huang Fu Ju to speak, another high-level disciple was furious. His anger rushed to Su Fong, who was floating in the air. What else do you have to say? At first glance, this person looked familiar. It turned out that when he first came to the precious artifact's secret realm, Huang Fu Ju took him to visit a senior martial brother. He did not expect. In the past, when he benefited from him, he called him senior martial brother on the left and right. He was closer than family. He was almost comparable to the monk Shangda. But when it came to interests, he could be merciless and instantly turn hostile. This disciple was like this. Huang Fuju and the surrounding disciples were all like this. Especially Huang Fuju. Back then, he probably knew that Mu Shua had come to find him at the Celestial Lake Peak. So he quickly drew a clear line with Su Fong. As far as the eye could see, the dozens of immortals from Huang Fu Daoist sect almost became strangers at this moment. At such a short distance, Su Fong felt that he was people from a different world from them. I have nothing to say. In the face of pairs of vicious and cold eyes, Su Fong only responded calmly. Huang Fu Ju finally shouted, Huang Fu Shaoying, where did you hide and cultivate during this period of time? I couldn't find you in the Daoist sect or the Celestial Lake Peak. I didn't expect that you would start to cheat as soon as you entered the Daoist sect. Su Fong asked directly. I only want to ask Senior Martial Brother, which rule of the Celestial Lake Peak is that every disciple must stay inside to cultivate at all times. You still dare to talk back. Huang Fu Rue almost rushed up. It seems that you know the sect rules very well. Huang Fuju was suddenly startled, and then his gaze eased, and he was no longer as arrogant as before. The Celestial Lake Peak indeed doesn't have a written rule that every disciple must cultivate at all times, but as the supervisor of your entry into the Taoist sect, I have the right to supervise your cultivation. However, in this short period of time, you were so lazy and did not cultivate diligently. You have mastered the basic knowledge of refining, and today, you forcibly occupied the cave, disregarded the law, and injured two fellow disciples. The sect has rules that prohibit bullying fellow disciples. As a disciple, I don't have the right to say that I'm lazy, and I can't explain it clearly. However, I don't agree with bullying fellow disciples. You don't agree? How can an ordinary disciple like me agree with Senior Marshal Brother Jew? As for Senior Marshal Brothers, you can go and check. Is it that Huang Fu Rui and the others have entered the sect longer? Or is it that I, Huang Fu, Xiaoying, have entered the sect shorter? What do you mean? I'll have to trouble Senior Marshal Brothers to calm down and grow some brains. I, Huang Fu Xiaoying, have only entered the sect for more than 100 years, and Huang Fu Rui and the others have entered the sect for at least 3,000 years. Then here comes the problem. Huang Fu Rui and the others spoke without thinking, saying that I, a disciple who has entered the sect for 100 years, can bully disciples who have cultivated for thousands of years. Isn't this the biggest joke in the world? PFFF. Who knew that when Su Fong finished speaking, Huang Fu Rui was so angry that he actually spat out a mouthful of blood. The others were also stunned like wooden people, because what Su Fong said was indeed irrefutable. It was estimated that Su Fong was bullying Huang Fu Rui and the others. This was a very obvious fact. On the contrary, for Huang Fu Ju and the other higher-ups, their faces were all ugly. Although they were all sizing up Su Fong, they were all whispering to Huang Fu Ju, "Brother Ju, this batch of Eternal Star Sons is too outrageous, especially this Huang Fu Xiaoying. He actually said that we, the higher-ups, don't have brains. He's just a disciple with a different surname who was given a name. We've been cultivating in this treasure realm for so long. How can we not deal with a newcomer like him? If we can't even deal with him, how can we still have dignity in front of the newcomers in the future?" I think so too. Everyone kept talking, and Huang Fu Ju also secretly replied to everyone. Su Fong heard every word they said clearly. He couldn't help but feel a sense of dread in his heart, and he began a plan in his heart. Since I've offended these people, I have to face any problems on my own. Moreover, they are as despicable and shameless as that Mu Shua, so their next methods to deal with me will definitely be despicable and dirty. I also have to find the best way to deal with them. Fortunately, I'm reasonable, so I'm not afraid of making a big deal out of this. Huang Fu Rui, the matter between you two. Suddenly, Huang Fu Ju and the other higher-ups retreated a bit. He looked at Huang Fu Rui and the others. We'll pretend we don't know. This is a private matter between you and Huang Fu Xiaoying. How you want to settle accounts with him is none of our business. We only know that Huang Fu Xiaoying forcibly took over his cave, disrespected his elders, didn't cultivate diligently, and injured fellow disciples. We don't know anything else. It's better for you to settle your matters with him. I understand. Senior brother is right. Huang Fu Rui's angry expression was instantly replaced by pride. He looked at the 20 or so new disciples and cast a deep gaze. Thank you, Senior brother, for your help. Since Senior brother has spoken, then let's join hands and teach this blind fellow a lesson. I admit that it's difficult for me to deal with you alone, but with so many of us, I don't believe that you can still make waves. I'll let you know how powerful I am. The disciple who was seriously injured by Su Fong immediately flew to Huang Fu Rui's side. Hua Hua Hua, the other 20 or so new disciples, also came to Huang Fu Rui's side. This was a formation that required 20 or so people to deal with a new disciple. They really became a pack of hungry wolves gradually approaching. Su Fong looked at Huang Fu Ju and the others. These people were indeed old and experienced. Their cultivation was not good, but they were all experts in dealing with people and suppressing people. Huh, he suddenly laughed out loud. You high-level disciples are all scheming and astute. You used your power in the training hall to kill me, an ordinary disciple. For this, you are all despicable and shameless. Huang Fu Rui shouted crazily. You're the one who's blind. You can't blame others. Moreover, this matter has nothing to do with our senior brothers. You're the one who's looking for trouble. Huang Fu Ju. Ignoring Huang Fu Rui, Su Fong looked at Huang Fu Ju in surprise. They're all a group of small fries? Bowing to the bucket of crows and crows. One arrow warning Huang Fu, quietly chin he, still you fei, pi tao shi, jianwa jianwa jianwa, dragging Lu Semeng yuanhua duan yao, enigma jianwa, gluttonous xing, May model? Huang Fu Qiao. Huang Fu Qiao. Even Enigma, Jianhua, sending Huang Fu Dang Qian. Huanhua, Jianhua, 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 Jianhua Baliao. Jianhua, 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 are you crazy? The high-level disciples could not help but roar. I am crazy. Huang Fu Ju, I think you're just a turtle. If you're not a turtle, then come and fight me. Don't blame me for saying this, but you so-called high-level disciples cannot compare to the high-level disciples like Huang Liao, Qing Kuei, and Yuan Yifang. You're just a group of useless geniuses, ordinary disciples with no future in cultivation. The only advantage you have is that you enter the treasure realm before me. Other than this advantage, you're just a group of trash in my eyes. Swish. Who would have thought that Su Fang's words would really enrage Huang Fuju? After Su Fang said the last word, before he could stop his mouth from moving, Huang Fuju suddenly unleashed the aura of a transcending heaven immortal. It was too terrifying, and it suddenly pressed down on him. Retreat. Huang Fu Rue and the others immediately understood and reacted. More than 20 people quickly retreated. Su Fang suddenly changed into a different person. That's it. You're a high-level disciple. Since you said that I disobeyed the rules, then you should come and teach me a lesson yourself. Huang Fuju's aura exploded again. I really don't know where you get your confidence from. I already know that you are indeed young Master Bao's follower, and you also have a bit of relationship with Lady Bao. But this is the treasure realm. You were right before. How can one mouth of yours win against so many of our mouths? Are you crazy today? Let me wake you up. The aura buzzed into Su Fang's surroundings. It transformed into a 100-meter-long field of aura, trapping Su Fang within it. Huang Fuju was just that powerful. Chapter 1048. An expert with amazing cultivation was pressuring a disciple who had just become a sky immortal. An immortal who had cultivated for more than 10,000 years was pressuring a newly ascended immortal who had only cultivated for 1,000 years. Su Fang was caught in the center of Huang Fu Ju's astonishing aura. This aura also let Su Fang know how strong a sky immortal was. But fortunately, this Huang Fu Ju was not as strong as Huang Fu Xiao Xiao and Qi Yanzi. He was even 1/10 of them, and was still far away. Huang Fu Ju was 10 levels away from experts like Qi Yanzi, but Su Fang was 100 levels away from them. Therefore, Huang Fu Ju was an existence that surpassed Su Fang by countless times. The surrounding disciples also felt that Su Fang was really crazy today, biting people everywhere. It was fine if he bit people, but he actually bit Huang Fu Ju. Moreover, he offended almost all the disciples from Huang Fu Dojo in the treasure item secret realm. At this time, Huang Fu Ju floated in front of Su Fang, about 10 feet away, and said condescendingly, "How is it? You can't struggle under my power, right? Huang Fu Ju, you have some courage, but do you think I will let you step on my head like this? If I didn't have some tricks up my sleeve, I wouldn't have suddenly appeared in the 10,000 years competition." Suddenly, without waiting for Huang Fu Ju to take the initiative step by step, Su Fang grabbed runes that released demonic qi and floated in front of him. He looked at these runes coldly and seemed to have a lot of confidence in them. The other party did not understand. So you have these evil runes from the demonic Tao. You want to use the power of the demonic Tao to deal with me. With your little cultivation, you can't make waves. When he finished speaking, the surrounding disciples looked at him with great anticipation. Then you are wrong. Su Fang was neither servile nor overbearing, and suddenly flicked one of the runes with his finger. Whoosh! The runes attacked Huang Fu Ju like flying swords. What is this? The latter did not even look and waved his hand to block. A surge of true qi rolled towards the demonic qi runes. Boom! The aura was indeed frightening. It suddenly shattered the demonic qi rune talisman. However, after the rune talisman shattered, it actually released a shocking amount of devilish poison. As soon as the demonic poison appeared, it swallowed Huang Fu Ju's aura and suppressed the powerful aura around Su Fang. What a shocking demonic poison. Everyone back off. The surrounding disciples shuddered and retreated. As for Huang Fu Ju, He hastily retreated. The demonic poison was too powerful. It actually corroded a large hole in the aura that he released. Huang Fuju stabilized his momentum. "Oomph, I couldn't tell that you were a fanatic of the demonic path. I just accidentally obtained some demonic energy. That's good. You've given me a reason to kill you. Don't blame me for being ruthless. I won't allow a disciple like you to challenge my position here. If you want others to respect you, then you need to have an advantage that is worthy of respect. However, all I see in you is ruthlessness and cunning. You don't have to judge my character. Break." Grabbing the air, Huang Fuju really attacked. The meteor kill sword was 100 times more powerful than the Sky Immortal Disciple's attack. It directly swept towards Su Fong. However, Su Fong was forced to retreat. He was not stingy with his demonic rune talismans and flicked them out one by one. Few demonic rune talismans exploded around the meteor kill sword. Once the demonic poison exploded, it affected the attack and speed of the meteor kill sword as a whole. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Su Fong flashed to the other side and controlled the demonic Qi rune talisman to prepare for a counterattack. He did not obtain the demonic Qi rune talisman. It was a rune talisman that he secretly refined using the gluttonous demon's poison. He already knew that he would have to face strong experts in the future. In the Star Palace, he had to have methods that would not let others suspect or spy on him. Other than the gluttonous demon's poison, he could not use any other methods. This was because he had the perfect excuse to say that he obtained the demonic Qi rune talisman by accident in the wasteland. Now, no matter which side it was hard to stop halfway. Su Fong would not allow himself to be trampled on. Huang Fuju would also not let him go. Another demonic Qi talisman? Under the shocking sword Qi released by Huang Fuju, the talisman was thrown out continuously and collided with the sword Qi. The moment it was broken, it was a talisman, when the demonic poison inside collapsed and engulfed it. Most of the people in this cultivation valley were Huang Fu Dojo's disciples. At this moment, the commotion was too shocking, causing even more disciples to fly out of their caves. Even a mountain range behind them was shaking. For a heaven-surpassing immortal realm expert like Huang Fuju to perform his divine ability in such an environment, the commotion was very shocking. Huang Fuju saw many people looking at him from the surroundings. He hated Su Fong so much that his teeth itched. His distorted face revealed a sinister smile, and suddenly, his aura increased by several times. "I want to take the initiative." As the divine ability came, Su Fong could only dodge. With his perfect realm ability, he could control the movements of the entire celestial pool peak. He knew that Huang Fuju was anxious. Even a rabbit would bite when it was anxious, let alone this kind of despicable, shameless, and vengeful person. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. With a wave of his hand, a wave of energy swept out. It was actually a dozen poison Qi talismans. Before Huang Fuju released his divine ability, the talismans exploded in the surroundings. Thus, wave after wave of demonic poison pressured Huang Fuju. This person's aura was very strong. He also had the power of the world and could release the power of the stars. Naturally, the poison Qi could not get close to him and was repelled by a large amount of divine aura from 10 zhang away. Huang Fuju laughed mockingly. "Are you trying for nothing? There's not much time left. Peerless Extreme Dao Nebula Art, Heaven and Earth Suppression. Extreme Dao Nebula Art Qi." When Su Fong heard this, his aura exploded. Dealing with the Extreme Dao Nebula Art was not a joke. It could cause death. Huang Fuju, who was using the Extreme Dao Nebula Art, suddenly stopped his hand seals. You actually broke through from the cave immortal realm to the heavenly immortal realm. It turned out that from the powerful aura released by Su Fong, he could tell what cultivation level he was now. A heavenly immortal. A heavenly immortal was not Huang Fuju's opponent. He just did not expect that after so many years, a low-level cave immortal disciple would suddenly become a heavenly immortal. The surrounding disciples were also very shocked. This person must be killed. Huang Fuju suddenly sped up the formation of the talismans. Suddenly, a shocking starlight aura surged like a nebula in front of him. It surged and covered a distance of 100 zhong, forming right above Su Fong. Chi. When the killing intent was about to engulf Su Fong, the surrounding people also knew that this move would definitely kill Su Fong. At this moment, from the mountain behind, which was also the celestial pond peak, dozens of figures suddenly flew over. Su Fong did not even look at them. He just threw out more poison chi talismans and sneered in his heart. It's about time. In the air ahead, Huang Fuju's gaze twisted like a meat grinder. He suddenly turned his head to take a look, and then his hands formed the last seal. The dozens of figures flying over let out a deafening roar. Who's causing trouble? This is not a place for you to mess around. Go! But Huang Fuju bared her teeth and glared angrily, her hands pressed down on Su Fong. Tut Xiao Chao's 1,000 feet of starry nebula divine ability seemed to have been peeled off from the space above Su Fong, or even cut open to form a piece of space. His entire body blasted towards Su Fong. Swiftly and violently, a turbulent nebula pressed down on Su Fong's location. Whoosh! A few figures arrived in front of Huang Fuju through the air. Yes, Qin Kuei, Yuan Yifeng, and 3 powerful disciples. These were the 2 powerful disciples who were currently in charge of the daily affairs of the Celestial Pool Peak. The other 3 were also very powerful. Yuan Yifeng swept his gaze and majestically charged towards Huang Fuju. Pa! 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 The air trembled, and that Huang Fuju was blasted 10 feet away. Humiliation, a great humiliation. But Huang Fuju was really able to endure humiliation. She was also a person who bullied the weak and feared the strong. She could control Su Fong, but she didn't dare to offend the higher-ups. Yuan Yifeng shouted in front of everyone, "We've already warned you. Do you think we don't know what's going on here? We warned you not to harm people's lives, but you..." Huang Fuju bowed and explained, "This disciple Huang Fu, Shaoying, forcibly occupied the cave residence and injured other disciples. He has no regard for the law and discipline, and he's lazy and doesn't cultivate diligently. He did such a disobedient thing. I just want to teach him a lesson, but I was too angry in my heart and didn't withdraw my power for a while." At this time, Yuan Yifeng took a deep look at Huang Fuju from the corner of his eyes. He then came to the side of another genius, Qin Kuei. "Brother Qin Kuei, I've already taught Huang Fuju a lesson. Since it's a mistake, it's pardonable. What do you think?" Qin Kuei's expression was unhappy. He looked around indifferently, but he didn't look at Huang Fuju. Boom! Unexpectedly, at this moment, at the bottom of the turbulent valley where the nebula divine ability collapsed, covered, and shattered, there was suddenly a deafening sound like a thunderbolt. It attracted nearly 100 disciples nearby and hundreds of disciples behind to look at the remaining power of the nebula in shock. It turned out to be a 1-foot-long Xian sword talisman emitting a sword light. It was slowly rising and was under the Xian sword talisman. Below, there was a figure. Huang Fuju took a step back and exclaimed in her heart, "How is it possible that he's not dead?" A large number of disciples around also found it hard to believe, because under the Xian sword talisman, below, it was Su Fong who was hit by the extreme nebula art. Among the high-level disciples who came with Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifeng, someone was suddenly attracted by the sword chi. This Dao talisman? Is it the same as the aura of Junbujia and Hanbuhui? How was it related to the 2 freaks of the proud sky peak? After hearing this, more high-level disciples began to discuss with each other in disbelief. What were Junbujia and Hanbuhui? In the constellation of 9 heavens, they were 2 freakishly powerful existences. They were also the only 2 disciples from the proud sky peak of the 9 great Dao sects. Of course, they were also the only 2 disciples of the world-famous expert, proud Sky Chonghen. The power of the nebula below had completely disappeared. That sword, Qi talisman, it also disappeared. Su Fong was in a sorry state. He was out of breath as he slowly rose into the sky. However, with an extremely calm gaze, he only glanced at Huang Fuju slightly. Mushuo. He saw Qin Kuei, Yuan Yifeng, and dozens of other experts. Behind the two of them, a face that could pose a real threat to him attracted his attention. It was Mu Shuo, who had almost killed Su Feng at the Celestial Pool Peak. Mu Shuo stood among the high-level experts. He did not act rashly. Instead, he acted as if this matter did not concern him. At this moment, Yuan Yifeng suddenly looked at Qin Kuei and the others. "It's good that you're fine." Su Feng increased his speed and flew directly towards Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifeng. Disciple asked senior brothers to uphold justice. "You still have grievances?" Yuan Yifeng's smile froze. "It's a fact that you injured disciples. It's also a fact that you did not cultivate diligently. The high-level senior brothers only said a few words to you. You can't go against them. We know that you have been wronged, but this matter was also your fault. You created such a big mess." Su Feng stopped 10 meters away from the two senior disciples and the other high-level disciples. "I just want to know if the sect only allows high-level disciples to make mistakes, but ordinary disciples like us do not have any human rights." Just as Yuan Yifeng was about to speak angrily, Qin Kuei suddenly walked out. "The sect is fair. There are so many people here. No one can cover the sky with one hand. If you have something to say, say it." Chapter 1049. Taking out the medallion, Su Feng said unhurriedly, "This is a disciple's medallion. This medallion can prove that I was the one who took possession of the abode first, and that I had set up the formation. But after I went to Huangfu Dojo to cultivate in the next 10 years or so, when I came back, the abode became senior apprentice brother Huangfu Rui's. I never received any notice, so if someone took a fancy to the abode, they could just say so. But if they didn't say anything, wouldn't that be taking the abode by force? They even accused me of taking the abode, and without saying a word, a group of people wanted to take care of me. But they were all trash with no strength and couldn't win, so they asked Senior Apprentice Brother Ju to help them. Senior Apprentice Brother Ju isn't bad. He used the extreme nebula art right from the start. No rush, no impatience. Under the cannibalistic gazes of the higher-ups, Huangfu Rui and Huangfu Ju, it felt like a pack of hungry wolves were surrounding Su Feng, a little lamb without any protection. Who knew that Su Feng would be so calm? He took out the token and explained the whole story word by word. Of course, he also took the opportunity to slap Huangfu Ju's face, especially the last sentence. Didn't he tell all the disciples that he, a high-level disciple, used the extreme nebula art to deal with a new disciple in the training hall? The main point was that the new disciple was still alive and well. This was an invisible slap. It really made Huangfu Ju feel like he was in a raging inferno. He couldn't stand still, but fortunately, he was in existence who had cultivated for a long time. His murderous intent dissipated like a receding tide. In the blink of an eye, all the high-level disciples stood in silence. The long robe also seemed to have stopped. After the disciples heard this, no one said anything. Huangfu Rui wanted to say something, but he also had to look at the environment and what kind of place this was. Qin Kuei, Yuan Yifeng, and the others were equivalent to elders here. How could they allow others to break the rules? No one had the right to speak at this moment. That Yuan Yifeng is a smiling tiger. Previously, when he came, he gave Huangfu Ju a show of strength. He seemed to be reprimanding Huangfu Ju, but he wanted to make a big deal out of this matter. He was clearly in cahoots with Huangfu Ju. He had long exonerated him of the crime. As for Su Feng, he was trying to figure out everyone's thoughts. Among them, the two key people were Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifeng. Yuan Yifeng wants this matter to die down with just one sentence. Of course, the higher-ups have to help the higher-ups. How is it possible for him to speak for a new disciple like me? I want to see how deep the waters of Star Palace are. The enemies that can be seen aren't scary. The enemies that can't be seen are the thorns that are stuck in the throat. Countless gazes fell on Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifeng. Even Mu Shuo chose to remain silent like the other higher-ups. Qin Kuei finally frowned at this moment, but she only raised her eyebrows slightly. There are rules everywhere. There are rules everywhere. Rules can't be lost, and rules can't be lost. Today's matter didn't have a big impact, but we have to show the law. Those who break the law can't be relaxed. Huangfu Shaoying, I'll give you 10 years to memorize all the secrets of refining weapons and materials in Chi Peak. By then, if you don't complete the task, you don't have to take half a step into Heavenly Chi Peak. Brother Yifeng, what do you think about this? I have no opinion. It's very fair. Yuan Yifeng suddenly smiled and nodded at the side. Senior, just as the two disciples finished speaking, no one expected Huangfu Rue to take a big stride forward. Huangfu Shaoying has no regard for the law. Is this punishment, huh? Seeing Huangfu Rue like this, he wanted to hit him when he was down. He had to make him die here today before he could let the matter rest. Su Fong sneered disdainfully, laughing that Huangfu Rue really didn't know how to judge people and things. Qin Kuei asked, Huangfu Rue, what do you think? Huangfu Rue suddenly looked at Su Fong with a cold gaze. Huangfu Shaoying has no respect for the superiors. He doesn't cultivate diligently and looks for trouble. He should be locked up in the forbidden area. At least, he should be chased out of Heavenly Chi Peak and even out of the sect. Your suggestion is not bad. Qin Kuei was still calm. We can't tolerate this kind of disobedient disciple. The latter was even more proud. Qin Kuei looked at Yuan Yifeng again. What do you think, Junior? Yuan Yifeng was stunned, and then he shouted at Huangfu Rue like thunder in spring, whether to enter Heavenly Chi Peak or not, it's also up to you to decide. Whether to let you be in charge of everything in the future, all of us disciples will disappear. I don't mean that. Huangfu Rue was stunned. He probably didn't have any thoughts at this moment and didn't dare to think anymore. Yuan Yifeng almost wanted to point at Huangfu Rue's nose and scold him, but he was still a disciple in charge. He waved his hand to everyone. Listen to Senior. Everyone disperse. Do what you need to do. Disperse, disperse. Most of the disciples began to leave. Qin Kuei also led most of the disciples to fly away from the bottom of the valley. He was still refining the Qing Yuan cauldron in Heavenly Chi Peak. Most of the high-level disciples were also focused on this matter during this period of time. Thank you for speaking up for Junior this time, Senior Yuan. You and I have been friends for so many years. Don't say this and don't be angry. The other group of high-level disciples was led by Yuan Yifeng, and Huangfu Ju was also among them. The group of people's backs were like an invisible mountain blocking Su Fong. Yuan Yifeng and Huangfu Ju had their arms around each other's shoulders. Every word they said proved Su Fong's previous guess. Indeed, the high-level disciples were on the side of the high-level disciples. I really didn't expect that Huangfu Shaoying could be related to Proud Sky Peak. Proud Sky Peak. He also heard the shocked exclamations of the few high-level experts around Yuan One faction. At this moment, only Su Fong was left. He first sensed the 3 mysterious sword talismans in his body. Only then did he realize the meaning of Dai Yi's words. Mysterious sword talismans? They represented Proud Sky Peak and everyone in Proud Heaven Dojo. Who would want to offend Proud Sky Peak? Huangfu Ju and Yuan Yifeng? Pa pa pa. As he turned around, a majestic star energy shattered the formation of the cave behind him. The cave was still his. When he returned to the cave, he had just changed the seal of the cave. Who knew that with his perfect perfection ability, he could hear all kinds of voices coming from the nearby caves of Huangfu Dojo's disciples. They were all talking about him, especially when he heard Huangfu Rue's voice. Senior, I was wrong. Ha! You still know that you were wrong. You said that if you wanted the cave, you could have it. But who would have thought that you were such a trash? You couldn't even deal with a Huangfu Shaoying. In the end, you didn't know how to behave in front of those high-level senior brothers. You were brainless, so you could say whatever you want. Fortunately, they didn't punish you. Otherwise, you would have to return the cave to Huangfu Shaoying and punish you as well. This is all because Senior Brother Ju is protecting Junior. In the future, Junior will go through water and tread on fire without hesitation. Scram! Huangfu Ju shouted angrily. With his perfect perfection hearing, it was like thunder surging in the cave, spreading out like waves. Hearing this, Su Fong slowly frowned. Huangfu Ju's strength is not bad. Fortunately, this is a dojo. Otherwise, the poison might not be able to restrain him. "Why did you call me here?" Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice coming from Huang Fu Ju's cave. Originally, with the perfect perfection ability, he could hear the sounds of a large number of caves around him. However, the movements of others did not have this voice, causing him to hold his breath. Huang Fu Duan. His eyes were bright and trembling. Huang Fu Duan, the threat that once caused him to feel uneasy at Huang Fu Dojo. Although a high-level member of the dojo was not an elder, he was still stronger than an inner disciple. "Uncle Duan, I secretly listened to your words. In the end, I still couldn't get rid of Huang Fu Shaoying. This guy broke through to the heaven immortal realm. The key is that he is related to the proud Sky Peak. If not for that, he didn't offend those cultivators in Nangong. There are also people in the Celestial Pool Peak who are dissatisfied with him. You can use them to get rid of this person. Yes, I will work on this aspect in the future. Later, I will send someone to send you resources. How can I accept this? I didn't even complete the task I gave you. Just take it. Don't worry, those disciples in charge of the Celestial Pool Peak only gave him 10 years to master the basic knowledge of refining artifacts. With his cultivation level, it is impossible. When the time comes, there will be evidence. He will no longer be protected by others." Huang Fu Ju and Huang Fu Duan's voices came hurriedly. However, Huang Fu Duan's voice suddenly disappeared. Su Fong curiously sensed and did not find any trace of Huang Fu Duan in Huang Fu Ju's cave. He reckoned that he was a young immortal. At this moment, he finally understood why Huang Fu Ju suddenly became hostile towards him. It was related to Huang Fu Duan. 10 years later, I reckon that everyone in the Celestial Pool Peak, as well as my hidden enemies, will see how I am publicly punished and make them satisfied. I have to go to the Proud Sky Peak once and complete the task that Dai Yi gave me. After condensing most of the perfect perfection ability, after a while, the cave was rebuilt by him. All the defenses had reached the level of a heaven immortal. Now, he had surpassed most of the ordinary disciples and became a heaven immortal. He flew out of the cave, but he was not going to the Celestial Pool Peak. 10 years? He was not in a hurry. Only those who were not in a hurry, and those who were in a hurry would think about this. Huang Fu Training Hall. In less than half an hour, he arrived at the side peak that he was very familiar with. Unexpectedly, just as he was about to approach the sealed space in the depths of the clouds in Huang Fu Feina, when he looked forward, he was slightly stunned. Yun Lu happened to appear from the clouds. So Yun Lu is a high-level heaven immortal. When he saw her, he was reminded of the time when he was forced to go through trials. He took light steps forward to welcome her. Yun Lu nodded coldly. "Miss asked me to come out and welcome you." At the same time, she asked her cave servant, Hong Kite, "Why did you suddenly lose contact with her?" I saw that it was not easy for her. In addition, she suddenly wanted to leave the Star Palace, so I secretly took her away from the training hall. This will bring you trouble. It's not trouble, but I also feel that it is not easy for women. Whether they are dead or alive, it is enough to know. I will bring you to Mississippi. After a few words, the two of them slowly approached the array as if they were friends of strangers. Once he arrived at the array, he heard a man talking to Huang Fu Feina. Elder Sui Ningchuan's unexpected death is indeed unexpected. It has been many years since an elder disciple died in our sect. The sect wants me to make a trip to the Huang Zhe astral realm to hunt down the butterfly demon. I reckon it is not to hunt down the butterfly demon, but to secretly protect those disciples and help them. As for hunting down the butterfly demon, there are many experts from the sect. I understand. I will rush to the Huang Zhe astral realm in the shortest time possible. After all, it is an elder who died. Moreover, this news has already spread in the Huang Zhe astral realm. Many forces are laughing at our sect for not being able to deal with a butterfly demon. Hearing the voice, the two of them stopped talking. Su Fong followed Yin Lu deeper into the training hall. He thought of the scene where Sui Ningchuan and Nangong Tu were killed. Suddenly, he broke out in a cold sweat. Dai Yi is in trouble. Fortunately, I came back quickly. Even Huangfu Feina will be there. It seems like the constellation of 9 heavens will not let Dai Yi go. Chapter 1050. They entered layers upon layers of formations, but they didn't arrive at the back garden. Under Yun Lu's guidance, they entered a door alone. As soon as they stepped through the door, they knew that this place was an illusory space. Huang Fufei was wearing a snow-white starry robe that was like splashed ink on her body. She looked absolutely stunning. I know everything about you, heavenly immortal realm. In an instant, Huang Fufei's gaze followed Su Fong to the space and flashed with a powerful divine light. You are indeed an ascendant from the mortal world. You can step into the celestial immortal realm in just over 200 years. This is the only one of its kind. You don't have to worry too much about the celestial pole peak. Su Fong saluted. With eldest miss here, this lowly one is naturally not afraid. Everything needs to be reasonable. Although this lowly one is an ant, this lowly one will do his best to fight. I asked you to come because I'm going to the Huang Zhe astral boundary. An elder was killed and the sect was furious. After learning about what happened at the celestial pool peak, I think I should leave you some resources before I leave the sect. This storage ring has tens of thousands of middle-grade soul-strengthening pills and a large amount of middle-grade immortal stones. You should cultivate well. You also have the Void Dust Cauldron, which is a supreme treasure. It's a treasure that every cultivator wants to have. After saying that, he tossed out a storage ring. 10,000 mid-grade soul-strengthening and condensing pills was really generous. Let me tell you more about the heaven and earth essence and the stars essence that those who have stepped into the heavenly immortal stage possess. The heavenly immortal stage is the cultivation of the heavenly immortal stage. The heavenly immortal stage is the bridge between the human body and nature. After cultivating the heavenly immortal stage and cultivating a certain amount of world energy, one can use the world energy to control the spiritual energy in nature, which is the essence energy. Huang Fufei took a few steps forward. He was no longer as high and mighty as before. Actually, it's not just the heavenly celestial realm. Every realm after the heavenly celestial realm is still cultivating the heaven and earth essence and the stars essence. If the heaven and earth essence and the stars essence were divided into 10 steps, the heavenly celestial realm's cultivation would only step into the first step or even not reach the first step. Extracting the essence of heaven and earth and borrowing the power of the stars to cultivate is so difficult. Su Fong sighed deeply. Heaven and earth are vast and profound. How could human cultivators control heaven and earth so easily? Then there would be no birth, old age, sickness, or death in this world. There would only be the undying kingdom created by the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. Extracting the essence of heaven and earth and borrowing the power of the stars would have to be cultivated forever. Even those big shots, like the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor, couldn't cultivate beyond the 10th level. At most, they could only master most of the abilities. Starting from the heaven immortal realm, one would need time to accumulate cultivation and comprehension. Bao Bao's progress in the grand ancient Taoist rite is also not bad. Today, I have the intention to let you go. Your growth and your talent have already exceeded my expectations. I will bring you out of the treasure secret realm and into the grand ancient Taoist rite. From now on, you will be able to specialize in divine powers, as well as many cultivation techniques of the Star Palace. That is a dojo that everyone wants to enter. Most of those elders also became the upper echelons of the sect from the grand ancient dojo. You have talent and courage. Even so, if you had a better environment, your path of growth would be one that most disciples would not be able to match. Go to the grand ancient Taoist rite. Hearing this, Su Fong was filled with surprise. He immediately bowed and said, I still want to stay in the treasure secret realm. Oh, Huang Fufei, who was wrapped in her snow-white star robe, had an extremely curvy body. From her expression, it was not difficult to see that she was very surprised. Su Fong looked at Huang Fufei and said, The grand ancient Taoist rite is very good. Even the eldest miss is cultivating there. Everyone is envious of it. I also want to go there. Now that I am in the treasure's secret realm, I am also treading on thin ice with every step. But so what? Gold will shine no matter where it is. I'm also very interested in refining weapons. I believe that in the future, I will definitely succeed. I will not focus on refining weapons. Think carefully. If you cultivate in the grand ancient Taoist rite, you can enjoy the same resources as Bao Bao. But in the treasure's secret realm, you have repeatedly offended disciples. In the long run, if you do not have the ability to make everyone fear you, then you will not be able to come out unscathed every time. I have thought carefully. The more this kind of environment is, the more it can train people. I did not expect you to have such determination. You should properly cultivate in the treasure secret realm. I heard that the Celestial Pool Peak wants you to memorize in 10 years what ordinary disciples have memorized in 100 years. This is not a small challenge. I will definitely work harder. After bowing, he felt relieved. Fortunately, Huang Fufei did not force him to enter the grand ancient Taoist rite. Otherwise, all his plans would be disrupted. After a few more words, he returned to the treasure's secret realm. Using the Great Perfection Stage ability, he could hear most of the disciples discussing the scenes that had happened before. Celestial Pool Peak. Su Feng had just arrived in front of the cave's barrier. When the guard disciple Lu Feng saw him, he signaled them to pay attention to the surrounding movements and followed Su Feng inside. Lu Feng smiled and said, "I have heard about you. Fortunately, I have recorded many things for you before. I also heard that you have the support of the proud Sky Peak and Huangfa Taoist rite. I did not expect you to have such a background. However, you have to be careful. The waters of the Taoist rite are too deep. If there is a first time, there will be a second time. Your life will not be easy." This guy was an optimist. Although his cultivation was not amazing, he was an extremely thoughtful disciple. For a disciple who had cultivated for tens of thousands of years and was unable to become a high-level disciple, he must have something extraordinary to be able to be so carefree. The cave was very quiet. After sending Lu Feng away, Su Feng initially thought that there was no eternal star sun here. However, he was wrong. He almost missed one person. There was an eternal star sun cultivating. Su Feng was slightly surprised, but he felt that it was normal. The treasure secret realm was not the vast ancient secret realm. Cultivation had begun to change. It was mainly focused on refining weapons instead of cultivation. This caused the eternal star sun to suddenly change his previous tense state of cultivation and gradually settle down. Only people like Su Feng could not wait to cultivate and become stronger. And it's an eternal star sun from the water's spiritual land. Moreover, his cultivation has just broken through to the heavenly immortal realm. He used his sensing ability to sense carefully. He even knew the eternal star sun's appearance and cultivation clearly. He came to a stone house and took many secret manuals. He then sealed the stone house. It looked like he was flipping through the manuals, but he was actually releasing a large number of young immortals to record the information. Meanwhile, he began to fuse with a magic treasure. Magic treasure. At this moment, in a magic power world inside his divine aperture, a large number of young immortals were being stripped away by the heavenly demon disintegration seal. Above them floated the true demon blood plate. No, upon closer inspection, it was the heavenly demon blood plate that he had obtained from the 100 Virtues ancient demon rite. From afar, it looked similar to the true demon blood plate. However, upon closer inspection, there were many differences. Especially the demonic patterns and the quality of the magic treasure, it gave off a very different feeling. He had obtained the soul-chasing fiend sword, immortal piercing blade, and heavenly demon blood plate from the ancient demon rite. The first two magic treasures were offensive magic treasures that he could not control. He could not control the heavenly demon blood plate either. They were both ancient magic treasures. However, the heavenly demon blood plate was a magic treasure that focused on young immortals. It could be considered an essence soul dharma treasure. As long as a powerful young immortal powered it, it could release shocking divine power. Coincidentally, Su Feng cultivated the heavenly demon disintegration seal. As a young immortal, He was powerful. With this magic treasure, he would be like a tiger that had grown wings. The heavenly demon blood plate probably sensed that Su Fong had the power of the 100 virtues ancient demon in him. The fusion process was too easy. The heavenly demon blood plate began to circle above the dermic power sea. Below it were countless young immortals. This way, his young immortal would have a magic treasure guarding him. Any young immortal that entered the dermic powers sea would be crushed by the heavenly demon blood plate. In this cultivation state, he constantly sensed the vast world within the heavenly demon blood plate. Furthermore, the heavenly demon disintegration seal, a young immortal cultivated, was more terrifying. With the 100 virtues ancient demon's power inside, Su Fong's young immortal would not be a threat with the heavenly demon blood plate. Where is he? After an unknown period of time, a woman's voice suddenly broke the cave world filled with cold origin stones and materials. Senior Sister Wang, Huang Fu Shaoying is inside. Lu Feng led the way for a woman. That woman turned out to be Wang Yuzhen. At this moment, Su Feng, who had a surprised expression on his face, hurried over. Thank you, junior brother. Wang Yuzhen let Lu Feng leave the cave first and brought Su Feng to a corner. She pointed at Su Feng and said angrily, I told you to look for me when you have time. Did you ignore my words? Su Feng could only explain, I'm really busy. I have a lot of things to deal with. You are really in big trouble. Facing Li Tianqi and his group, especially those from the same Dao sect as you still want to make a name for yourself in this treasure mystic realm? I can't hide anything from Senior Sister. It's not that I have good ears. It's just that I have a good relationship with some high-ranking disciples. If not for me, do you think you can still pass this time? Where did this come from? If I didn't tell Qin Kuei in time, do you think he would stand on your side and not give face to the other disciples who have cultivated for many years? Instead, he would side with you and enforce the law impartially. Making me have to pass the assessment for 10 years is already considered to be helping me enforce the law impartially. Why do I feel that everyone is suppressing me? In the end, I'm the only one being punished while everyone else is fine? You didn't see it clearly. You're the one who didn't see it clearly. So why are you blaming others? This time, it's clearly those people who are targeting you. The key point is that even some of the higher-ups have the same idea. I've sent people to investigate, and it really has something to do with you offending the Nangong brothers during the 10,000-year competition. There are many people in the Celestial Pole Pool Peak who have a good relationship with Li Tianqi. There are too many ways for them to mess with you. Take me and Qin Kuei, for example. He often meets me because of artifact forging, so I can speak up for you in the Celestial Pole Pool Peak. Furthermore, Qin Kuei didn't punish those people because he didn't want things to get out of hand. Instead, he is helping you. If he were to punish them now, those people behind them will definitely use more sinister methods to deal with you. This is equivalent to giving everyone face and giving both sides a way out. You are an ascender and should understand these things. As for the 10 years, in my opinion, Qin Kuei is also protecting you. He is publicly giving you 10 years to strengthen yourself. During this period, no one will find trouble with you. I really didn't think of this. So there were so many layers to this matter, especially since Qin Kuei was originally helping him. As for this point, if he knew that Qin Kuei was related to Wang Yuzhen, this matter would be much easier to handle. 10 years is nothing to me. There are countless materials in this huge cave, and I've already memorized most of the secret manuals. This time, it is all thanks to Senior Sister's help. After I am done with this matter, I will go and help Senior Sister. I also hope that one day, you can become a master artifact refiner like Qin Kuei. If that day really comes, we can definitely work together. In this cultivation world, if you cannot become the strongest person, then you must become the most influential person. I've already been lectured by Big Sister many times. In the future, I will prioritize business. Helping you is the same as helping myself. I am gambling on you. If I bet on the right treasure, I will also profit. What if I bet on the wrong thing? Don't let me see you in the future. Take it easy. Wang Yuzhen suddenly moaned and glared at him before turning around and leaving. Chapter 10:51. Wang Yuzhen came and went suddenly. Su Fang was left in the cave filled with all kinds of materials. He suddenly realized the importance of connections. If he had connections, he could make a person disappear without any effort. He continued to cultivate the heavenly devil blood plate. This treasure was peerless and invincible, especially when used to deal with enemies. Young immortals were invincible. Of course, other than the heavenly devil blood plate, he was also constantly paying attention to the snake spirit immortal swallowing cauldron's refinement and the recent improvement of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. A large number of big goblin were cultivating inside the void dust cauldron. With the yin-yang immortal sky pill being refined continuously, the big goblin did not lack power at all. The Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda's quality was already at the same level as Su Fang's strength. Its improvement speed was not too fast, so it was used to improve the other two Dharma treasures. Su Fang's various divine abilities were also constantly improving. Currently, the most important cultivation technique was the illusory fire cloud. Since fusing with the heavenly light fire seed, the pure young, true fire in his body and the fire elemental divine power of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda had brought about a huge transformation. The muscles and blood in his hands could instantly transform into a fire cloud state. Similarly, due to the fusion of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, Su Fang's body also contained the divine power of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and lightning. The heavenly light fire seed was extremely powerful among the heavenly flames, which made the body also have astonishing divine power of the heavenly flames. Currently, other than the wood element, there was also the fire elemental divine power. Even the earth element divine power was surpassed by the fire elemental divine power. This was because he wanted to have the fire cloud emperor physique too much. Actually, in terms of refining pills and artifacts, the fire cloud emperor physique is also extremely powerful. When you reach a certain realm, your hands can become fire clouds. Coupled with the supreme alchemy ability, you can use your hands to refine pills and melt materials. The fire elemental divine power can be used in any other aspect besides transforming into offensive divine abilities. Luo Feng suddenly spoke. This sentence made Su Fang extremely convinced. It also enlightened him. Only then did he know that cultivating the fire cloud emperor physique had the possibility of unlimited improvement in the future. Therefore, no one knew how terrifying the fire cloud emperor physique and the other true bodies were in the end. A long time passed in a flash. Su Fang had been cultivating all this time. He didn't leave the celestial pool peak and didn't encounter any trouble. On this day, he stopped his cultivation. After bidding farewell to Lu Feng, he didn't leave the celestial pool peak. Instead, he went to the flaming passage in the center and arrived at the flaming pontoon bridge. When most of the time had passed, he sensed an incomparably shocking great fertility violet chi behind the barrier. It was too shocking. Not to mention the interior of the array formation, even the external space was indescribable with a great pregnant violet chi. Such a place was simply prepared for him. I have to become stronger. So what if I break through to the heavenly immortal realm? Hee. I've obtained all the treasures of the ancient demon Daorite, but I don't have the qualifications to seize the treasures of the Yin Xian Lu and the Yellow Springs Devil Daorite. I have to start refining during this period of time. Only by entering the spirit pool peaks of the artifact refining pool can I get close to the artifact cauldron. Only then can I calm down and openly absorb the primordial violet chi. At the end of the pontoon, now that he was outside the spell formation, all he could do was wait. Just a step away from the spell formation, he could see hundreds of high-level disciples surrounding the ancient cauldron, watching Qingkuei's every move. As expected of a high-level disciple, he waited for many days, until 3 disciples walked out. Coincidentally, one of them was Mu Shuo, and the other was Yuan Yifang. The 3 high-level disciples were like emperors in front of Su Fang, holding their heads high. Among the 3, Yuan Yifang had the highest status, followed by Mu Shuo and Lu Feng, who had a slightly higher status. As the three of them arrived outside the celestial pool peak, some high-level disciples and some ordinary disciples soon arrived. Even Huang Liao was at the entrance, watching the show like an idler. Su Fong didn't expect it to be an ordinary test, and it was so shrouded. About 30 people gathered at the flat ground in front of the entrance. Yuan Yifang said, "Senior Brother Qin Kuei needs to focus on refining the Qin Yuan cauldron. Huang Fu Shaoying, 10 years is still too early for you to propose the test. If you can't pass, you won't have another chance. You can still regret it now. This is a place where no one can go back on their words." Su Fong bowed in front of everyone. This disciple is willing to take the test. The ordinary high-level disciple waved his hand in front of everyone, and more than 10 kinds of raw stones, gems, and liquids appeared in the array. "I don't know. It's just an eternal star sun. Why do they need to make such a big scene for a simple test?" This person offended someone, so the high-level disciples naturally care. They probably need to reorganize. Some disciples in the surroundings were whispering. Su Fong didn't think too much about it. He glanced at the dozen or so materials, and then calmly and clearly explained, "The skin of the red snake is shed from the skin of a big demon with red skin. After 10,000 years, it has turned into a special substance that can allow other materials to bond together more perfectly during the refining process. This is the rain sky stone. I heard that it is formed in a humid place all year round. Its function is to fuse various kinds of auras with materials. As for the gold essence stone, the silver fire stone, the Dali origin stone, the black stone, and the golden horn stone, their nature is firm, and they're the core materials to form the important body of the magic weapon. The ice spring water and the crimson fire origin liquid are treasures that are used to create the patterns and formations of the magic weapon body more perfectly when the magic weapon body is formed." Just like this, in front of the high-level disciples, he described the names and functions of each material without missing a single word. However, during this period, most of the disciples were in disbelief. How could an eternal star sun, who had only come to the celestial pool peak for a few decades, remember all these materials so clearly? There were also a few materials that were rarely used in refining. In the end, Su Fong still described them in detail. Almost some of the high-level disciples couldn't tell their origins. What else could they say besides being speechless? This kid is too strange. The most powerful person, Yuan Yifang, looked coldly at Su Fong as if he wanted to see through Su Fong. In his opinion, it was impossible for Su Fong to pass the test. Moreover, there were a few rare materials for refining. The calm Su Fong sneered in his heart. "I have the life shrinking technique, Yuan Yifang, and these people probably want to see through my body and find out what secrets I have. Just you wait. It won't be long before I surpass you all step by step." In the end, no one spoke. But at this moment, Yuan Yifang's words made his whole body turn cold. "Huang Fu Shaoying, in the future, you will cultivate in Mu Shua's refining cave and start from the basics. Junior brother Mu Shua has been at the celestial pool peak for a long time and knows more about refining than many people. This is deliberately pushing me into the fire pit." Su Fong never expected to cultivate under Mu Shua. When he saw that Mu Shua had already walked out, he said, "Senior brother, don't worry. I will treat Huang Fu Shaoying well. This kind of genius disciple can't be treated like an ordinary disciple. I'll leave this person to you." Yuan Yifang announced in front of everyone, "This year's Eternal Star Sun, Huang Fu Shaoying, has successfully passed the test. From today onwards, he can step into the celestial pool peak to learn refining. Let's go." Mu Shua couldn't wait and waved at Su Fong. There were a few disciples beside Mu Shua. It seemed that they were all disciples who followed him. "Yuan Yifang, just wait. I think you and Huang Fu Shaoying are in cahoots with Li Tianqi. Do you think that by letting me go to Mu Shua's place, I will fall and be played to death by him?" Humph. Hearing Yuan Yifang's arrangement, he pinched the tip of his nose and didn't say a word. He secretly followed Mu Shua and the few disciples to the entrance of the cave. As soon as they stepped into the celestial pool peak, Mu Shua and the few disciples didn't say a word, nor did they look at Su Fong. When they entered a cave on the left periphery and passed through a formation, 3 astonishing cauldrons appeared inside. Although they were different from the ancient cauldrons in the central cave, these 3 cauldrons were also high-grade cauldrons. There were many formations around the 3 cauldrons. Some disciples were using their true fire in the formations. It was unknown whether they were cultivating their true fire or using it to refine something. There were more than a dozen disciples around the cauldrons. These disciples were at least 10,000 years old and were observing the various movements of the cauldrons. Buzz, buzz, buzz. What they didn't know was that Su Fong, who was walking toward the cauldrons behind them, had an obvious tremor in his right arm. Su Fong hurriedly hid and raised his eyebrows. The great pregnant purple aura. What an astonishing, great pregnant purple aura. I reckon that I will need to absorb this power for a long time here. Hee. This way, the purple aura Dharma spirit will be able to fuse with me in the shortest time possible. When they arrived at the center of the 3 cauldrons, Mu Shuo introduced Su Fong briefly in front of everyone. Then, he brought Su Fong to the side of the 3 cauldrons. Since you want to start refining artifacts, you have to start by mastering the true fire. The true fire is very important for refining artifacts. During this period of time, stay beside the cauldrons and observe how everyone controls the fire. You can also familiarize yourself with the true fire when refining artifacts. Yes, the latter answered honestly. Mu Shuo suddenly smiled coldly. He stood with his hands behind his back and left with a few of them. After they left, Su Fong scanned the surroundings. There were about 100 disciples here, and there were also disciples from Huangfu Training Hall whom he was familiar with. Most of these disciples had just started on the path of refining artifacts. Some of them were still using sharp weapons to polish various materials. Refining artifacts was like building a house. One had to do it step by step. It wasn't like one could imagine that one could master the true fire ability and refine artifacts by burning materials. After coming to the treasure artifact secret realm for so many years, Su Fong knew how artifacts were created through his mastery of secret manuals. Artifacts were made from at least a dozen types of raw stones and various materials. In the beginning, one had to find the materials. After finding the materials, one had to polish the materials and study how to combine the materials. This was already very tedious and complicated. In the later stages, when all the materials were ready, one had to master the true fire ability. The more powerful the true fire ability was, the stronger and better the artifacts refined would be. The speed of refining artifacts would also be very shocking. In general, cultivation depended on the individual. These 3 cauldrons are filled with great fertility purple qi. It can't be compared to the cauldron in the center, but I've never seen such amazing purple qi before. Standing under the central cauldron, according to Mu Shuo's instructions, he began to observe the temperature of the cauldron's flames and the techniques of the disciples around the cauldron. He didn't care about this. He could finally start to cultivate the great fertility purple qi. When he came to the center of the 3 cauldrons, he saw that the flames around the cauldrons were very shocking. After all, he was an expert in the heaven immortal realm. He wasn't afraid of this. He sat down cross-legged and observed while sensing the temperature of the flames around him. There was a moment. Su Fong, who was sitting cross-legged under the 3 cauldrons, felt that something was wrong. At this moment, one of the cauldrons suddenly released a flame. It burned fiercely and rushed out of the cauldron like magma. These magma-like flames directly splashed towards Su Fong like water, and the surrounding array shook from the heat. Su Fong was instantly surrounded by burning flames. He was shocked, but he put up a defense in time. The flames sprinkled on the defense and the surroundings, burning large holes in it. Su Fong was about to be burned by the flames. P.S. I saw that many friends asked me to make up for the missing chapters during my trip to Nanjing. I will make up for it, but not this month. I still have to go to Guangzhou these few days. I will still maintain 3 chapters a day. The author's words, "Don't worry, I will make up for the chapters that need to be made up." I have to write the sequel of the heaven-defying Celestial Lord, which is also the sequel of Miracle 2. I also have to write the 9 Truths and 9 Sons. It's really tiring. Don't rush me. After this month, I don't have to go on a business trip. Chapter 1052. In an instant, the flames covered Su Fong. The flames burned holes in the defenses. The flames that shot out from the cauldrons formed a sea of fire around the three cauldrons. Not good, not good. Some treasures in the cauldrons suddenly took shape and caused the flames to shoot out. Following which, a few disciples who were refining weapons around the cauldrons flew out and floated above the sea of fire. They started shouting. The surrounding disciples were alarmed and came to the vicinity of the three cauldrons. Looking at the flames below that were burning out of control, none of them knew what was going on. Why aren't you saving him? That's right. The cauldron's flames are too fierce. He seems to be in the heavenly immortal realm, yet he is being burned alive. How can we save him? I'm afraid he's already burned to death. Even if we save him, he'll be a cripple. Save him first. Inform Senior Brother Mu. When the flames turned into a sea of fire, most of the surrounding disciples were watching the show. Only a few disciples wanted to save him. In the end, half of the disciples took action and formed seals. Xian Guang intertwined and formed a huge net above the sea of fire. What a realistic world of cultivation. Under the sea of fire, Su Fong was burned all over. However, he saw that the surrounding disciples only took action after a dozen breaths. They clearly did not care about his life. However, he was not afraid at all. So, his hands actually had the illusion that they were burning into a fire cloud. This fire cloud illusion was controlling the surrounding flames that shot out from the cauldrons. Moreover, his eyes were incomparably mysterious. They emitted a faint and deep flame light. It seemed to have a kind of fire elemental divine might. He, Senior Brother Mu, just needs to say a word, and we can easily kill this brat 100 times. Anyway, we can just say that it's a formation that can't keep up with the flames. Killing this brat has nothing to do with us. I just don't know how this brat offended Senior Brother. You don't know. I saw people from the Star Origin realm coming to look for Senior Brother several times. Later on, I heard that this Huangfu Shaoying offended a very powerful disciple from the Star Origin realm in this year's Eternal Star competition. So it's like that. They are from the same place. Then this Huangfu Shaoying coming to our place is like a sheep entering a tiger's den. Heh, actually, everything is probably under Senior Brother Mu's control. Su Fong was fighting against the flames, so he could hear everything around him. His gaze became as cold as a gust of wind as he looked up. Through the burning flames, he saw the two high-ranking disciples smiling sinisterly. It was only at this moment that he realized that the shooting of flames wasn't an accident. It was actually controlled by the two disciples in order to kill him. Mu Shua again. Because this bit of flame is enough to kill me. I have a fire-type innate divine might, and I also have the illusory fire cloud, pure yang true flame, and pure yang energy. Mu Shua, do you really want to kill me? Previously, he had experienced the reality of the cultivation world, but now he knew that he was just an ant. In the celestial pool peak, Huang Fufei and Wang Yuzhen would not be able to help in the end. If he did not have the ability this time, he would have been instantly burned to death by the flames. In the end, people still had to rely on themselves. I have to solve this problem and properly devour the great fertility, purple chi, and cultivate the purple chi law spirit. However, these problems always come and disturb my cultivation. His gaze was awe-inspiring, like a bolt of lightning streaking across the night sky, causing Su Fong to become indescribable all of a sudden. If there's no other way, then the only way is to make everyone afraid of me. That's right. Unexpectedly, Law also responded from the depths. In this world, strength is everything. I see that you have been going around in circles in the outside world, unable to cultivate in peace. It's because you're not ready to become a strong person. I'm not ready. To become a strong person, you have to be ruthless, decisive, and domineering. If you can't do this, you will be in this kind of restricted environment in the future. Furthermore, it will hinder your cultivation, causing many harm. To change all of this, you have to be prepared to become a strong person. Through methods and strength, you have to let everyone know about you and fear you. You have to make everyone tremble when they think of you. The purple chi law spirit is in Sheng Changxing's hands. I really don't know if it will become Huang Lingyao's or that seven-star child's in the future. Indeed, I have to make everyone afraid of me. If they are afraid of me, then I can peacefully pursue the great Tao. Suddenly, his thoughts coincided with loss. Holding his chin for a while, he thought about these years of cultivation. In the past, he was weak and had a tremble in fear. However, now that he had become a heaven immortal and had countless treasures and methods, he still had to live like he was treading on thin ice. Chi. The surrounding flames that were burning were suddenly sucked away by a gust of cold wind. At this moment, nearly 100 disciples surrounded the three cauldrons. Su Fong hid in the defense that was full of holes, trembling like a mouse. Huh, he actually didn't die. The faces of these high-level disciples were filled with disbelief. There was an uproar. No one would have thought that after an hour, the flames that could refine artifacts were still unable to burn a heaven immortal one Tao realm disciple to death. All eyes fell on Su Fong. To him, there was nothing that could affect his mood in the slightest. Senior Brother Mu is here. A commotion suddenly came from one side. Su Fong sucked the broken defense into his palm. When he raised his head, he saw Mu Shuo bringing many disciples to the air above the cauldrons. Mu Shuo's face was extremely calm. He did not say a word and waved at the crowd. After seeing the crowd disperse, he ordered the disciples to continue refining artifacts. As for Su Fong, no one asked about him. It was as if his life or death did not exist. He did not care about this. He came to the side of one of the cauldrons. He seemed to be observing the surrounding flames, but in fact, he had already begun to activate the purple Qi Dharma spirit. He had not directly absorbed the great pregnant purple Qi within the three cauldrons. On the other hand, this huge refining cave had sealed a lot of great pregnant purple Qi over the years. Fortunately, the great pregnant purple Qi was ethereal. Ordinary people could not sense it. In addition, Su Fong was only absorbing the great pregnant purple Qi like smoke. No one could detect it, unless it was a peerless expert like Heavenly Master Luan, or someone released an extraordinary ability to sense it. However, in this ordinary refining cave, who would waste their energy on a heaven immortal disciple? Buzz, buzz. In his right arm, the purple Qi Dharma spirit began to tremble. It seemed to be unable to be controlled by his flesh and blood. Fortunately, Su Fong could control it. He allowed the purple Qi Dharma spirit to quietly absorb the great pregnant purple Qi. This allowed Su Fong to clearly sense the change. The purple Qi Dharma spirit gradually calmed down and absorbed the great pregnant purple Qi. It also continuously merged with his right arm. Everyone is afraid that I will not simply use my strength to prove myself. Since they let me come into contact with refining artifacts, why can't I work hard and refine a Tao artifact in the shortest time possible? The eternal star sun, who had just entered the celestial pole peak, can already refine a Tao artifact. What kind of concept is this? Ordinary eternal star suns can only successfully refine a Tao artifact after about 10,000 years. Su Fong, who was thinking quickly, suddenly understood. He could not be led by the nose by Mu Shuo, Yuan Fong, and people like Qin Kuei. Of course, there was also Huang Fu Fei, Huang Fu Duan, and Huang Fu Yinhai. He had to take the initiative. Su Fong suddenly had a plan. Soon, after Mu Shuo and the others left, Su Fong finally absorbed a lot of great pregnant purple Qi and temporarily left the celestial pole peak. When he returned to his cave abode, he cast layers of barriers and took out a lot of materials. According to the description of the refining manual, he picked out more than 20 materials. He also asked Luo about refining artifacts. Although Luo did not know much about it, as a peerless expert, he more or less knew a little. With just these few materials, there were too many cultivators who cultivated the Tao of refining artifacts. After some understanding, he began to polish all kinds of raw stones and other materials. However, he still lacked a few spiritual liquids. Spiritual liquids were very important. Just like water brought life to all things, Tao artifacts also had life. After contacting Wang Yuzhen, he waited for a few days before going to Drifting Cloud Lake. When he arrived at Drifting Cloud Lake, it was similar to before. However, he was no longer an ordinary disciple, but an elite disciple of the internal training hall. His starry robe was different from the others, and everyone had to salute him when they saw him. Drifting Cloud Lake was still lively, but baby Huangfu was nowhere to be seen. When Wang Yuzhen saw Su Fang, she did not say anything. She first gave him a storage ring that contained several kinds of spiritual liquids specifically used for refining artifacts. She suddenly pulled Su Fang to the side. Many disciples of your treasure artifact, Mystic Realm, have made transactions with me. These spiritual liquids are ordinary and suitable for you. However, don't tell me you're preparing to refine artifacts. Senior Apprentice Sister is not an outsider, and you helped me a lot last time. Junior Apprentice Brother will not hide it from you. I am indeed preparing to refine artifacts. I just lack some spiritual liquids. As for artifact cauldrons, I will borrow those from the Celestial Pool Peak. You're making progress. I was forced to. If you need any help, you can just tell me. Junior Apprentice Brother obtained many ancient gems in the past, and their quality is not bad. I think ordinary immortal pills and immortal stones are not good enough for Senior Apprentice Sister. Where did you get so many ancient gems? Do you know how valuable they are? If you use them to refine artifacts, they can give artifacts an ancient aura. When Su Fang took out some of the ancient gems he obtained from the ancient demon training hall, Wang Yuzhen became like a rich landlady. At this moment, she had the illusion that she was looking at Su Fang in a new light. As for Wang Yuzhen, in Su Fang's eyes, she was just a friend. However, she was not the kind of person that he could befriend deeply. After reaching a certain level, there had to be a limit. After returning to the treasure artifact, Mystic Realm, Su Fan frowned for a long time. Suddenly, he threw more than 10 kinds of materials that he had selected and polished into the Void Dust Cauldron. It turned out, he wanted to use the Void Dust Cauldron's ability to refine the materials, just like the Artifact Cauldron. This way, it would be more convenient for him to refine artifacts. After going back and forth for more than half a year, he came to the Celestial Pool Peak again. He did not expect to meet Huangfu Rue here. The Eternal Star Children were still in the cave, guarded by Lu Feng. With their aptitude, how many years would it take for them to remember those amazing materials? However, through his own efforts, Su Feng had once again surpassed the Eternal Star Children of this generation. It was not 1 step, but 1,000 steps, or even 10,000 steps. Under the Artifact Cauldron, Su Feng still seemed to be observing the true fire day after day, as well as the refining techniques of the disciples. It had been a few years since he came here, but he did not seem to have grown. However, he had begun to take action. Through learning how to control the Artifact Cauldron's true fire, he really came into contact with the Artifact Cauldron and floated above it. The other disciples did not care about his actions. Every disciple who had just come here was always full of curiosity about everything. However, after a while, they were not willing to take half a step in here. Su Feng was an ordinary disciple, so he could only use the Artifact Cauldron on the 2 sides as his cultivation target. He looked inside the Artifact Cauldron and saw that there were already many magic treasures brewing inside. There were about 30 of them, and more than half of them had taken shape and were undergoing the final refining process. A small number of them seemed to have just started refining. All kinds of materials had turned into a sword-shaped burning state, or a Tao artifact, like a long saber. Whoosh! He observed for a while. He found a corner inside the Artifact Cauldron and poured the liquid of all kinds of materials into the Artifact Cauldron. In an inconspicuous corner, the fire inside the Artifact Cauldron began to burn. Although there was true fire inside the Artifact Cauldron, refining artifacts mostly relied on the cultivator's control of the true fire and the assistance of the Artifact Cauldron's flame. His mastery of Fire God art was the most important. Chapter 1053. Su Feng, a heavenly immortal eternal star son, actually came to the weapon cauldron. What was he trying to do? Some of the high-level disciples who had been here for tens of thousands of years were curious. Junior Brother Xiaoying, are you refining? Some disciples even came to the side. Why do your materials look so black? What are they made of? When people refine weapons, they directly grind the materials and put them into the weapon cauldron to refine them. Strange, it's really strange. Is your junior brother refining weapons? Ha! Also, your fire elemental hand seals are very rare. How did you open the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace with these materials? More disciples came over to watch the show. Some even pointed. Su Fong sat cross-legged while the disciples flew around like bees. Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. These people are right. The reason why refining weapons requires supreme, fire elemental divine abilities is because only true fire can be used to connect various materials and cleverly form the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. The Heaven and Earth Tao Palace is the form of a magic treasure. For example, a sword is the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace with a sword. They see that my fire elemental hand seals are very ordinary, but they don't know that this is the pure yang, true fire, the most domineering flame. Moreover, it can surpass all the true fires in the weapon cauldron. Therefore, I only need to release a bit of the pure yang true fire to control all the true fires in the weapon cauldron for my use. With the pure yang true fire, I can use it more than anyone else to construct the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. Actually, cultivating the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace is similar to cultivating the Black Lotus True Body's blood threads. The Black Lotus True Body's blood threads can continuously grow in the body, turning a large amount of blood threads into a human form. The Heaven and Earth Tao Palace is a fire elemental divine ability that creates the appearance of a Tao treasure from the inside of the materials. Although he scoffed at these disciples and ignored them, some of their words were still useful to him. Humans, cultivators, had golden cores and countless meridians. Of course, they also had divine apertures and magic power. What did magic treasures have? Could it be that there was no mysterious existence inside a magic treasure? The Heaven and Earth Tao Palace was the true core of a magic treasure. Tao treasures were originally piles of different materials, such as gems, immortal stones, spirit veins, and origin stones. After being forged by cultivators and burned in the weapon cauldron, they would finally fuse into a liquid state. This process was similar to refining pills. In order to transform the various materials into a liquid state, a kind of power was needed to transform the liquid into a sword, a saber, a tower, a cauldron, and so on. This form was the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. For example, the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda, the six-story world inside, and the shape of the pagoda were all constructed through the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. The most important factor in creating the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace was the fire-type divine ability. The liquid formed from various materials was a combination of a large number of different substances. It was like a ball of water, but water had no skeleton. Skeleton. The human body was supported by the skeleton. Magic treasures also needed a skeleton, and the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth was such a skeleton. As for the skeleton, it originated from fire elemental supernatural powers. Through a cultivator's control of true fire, they would fuse together countless refining hand seals and strike it into a liquid. Within the liquid, they would form various fire elemental meridian-like powers. They would suddenly control the liquid and gradually change its form, forming a Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth. This junior apprentice brother still needs to study hard. Many people looked at it for a while, but they couldn't figure out what was going on, so they shouted and ignored it. In addition, they all knew that Su Fong had offended people like Mu Shuo and Huang Fuju, so they didn't dare to say a word to Su Fong. It was good that they left. Su Fong was still doing something stupid in the eyes of others. With his refining method, it was impossible to refine a magic treasure. These people didn't know that Su Fong had already used the Void Dust Cauldron transformation ability to refine various materials into liquid. This was 100 times faster than refining with a weapon cauldron. My first magic treasure will be a flying sword. The Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth for a flying sword is easy to draw. Moreover, as long as I successfully refine a magic treasure, I will have achieved my goal. Sword. Su Fong began to wait for most magic treasures used by cultivators. He was also imagining what kind of magic treasure he would refine. He was still preparing. The liquid formed from materials would also take a long time to refine. Proud Sky Peak, one of the 9 great dojos in the constellation of 9 heavens. This wasn't an internal dojo, but its status and internal disciples were famous in the Star Palace. Proud Sky Peak was an external dojo. It was a peak that stood in the depths of the mountains. Usually, no disciple would come here. Because there were only 3 cultivators here, this place didn't recruit disciples. It also rarely had contact with the other dojos in the Star Palace. At this moment, a figure suddenly flew over from the clouds. Line Valley is in the mountains to the right of Proud Sky Peak's main peak. The person who came was Su Fong. Today, he didn't refine at the Celestial Pool Peak. Instead, he came to the Proud Sky Peak. The direction he flew towards wasn't the main peak of Proud Sky Peak. The main peak towered into the clouds. The clouds were like the sea, as if there was another world in the depths. He flew towards the right side of the heavy mountains. After searching for a while, he suddenly revealed a surprised smile and sped up. However, at this moment, in a certain abyss in the Star Palace, there were numerous collapsed caves that were ancient ruins. Although it looked like ruins, there was a formation. It should be a dojo. In the middle of the formation in the cave, there was an otherworldly woman sitting cross-legged. Suddenly, she opened her spiritual eyes. Strange. Someone came to my Proud Sky Peak. Master isn't here. Big Brother isn't here either. Near Proud Sky Peak, in the forest deep in the mountains, there was a strange valley. The center of the valley seemed to be split by some force. A cloud formed in the middle. It looked like the cloud divided the valley into 2 parts. Su Fong arrived above the cloud and saw valleys on both sides. What was below? Below the cloud layer was a colorful stream that gushed out from the ground. There were also corridors in the forest on both sides. There were even a few thatched cottages in front. It wasn't like the other places that were filled with lofty palaces. This place was like a world where mortals lived. Su Fong didn't think too much. He took out a xianguang. Unexpectedly, the xianguang flashed and flew towards the back of one of the thatched cottages. He quickly chased after it and looked past the thatched cottages. It turned out to be an exquisite garden. With the addition of the cloud and mist, this place was like a dreamland. Buzz. The xianguang floated above a big rock beside a big tree. Dai Yi asked me to take something from here and burn it on the spot. Why is she a big goblin from a big world? Why does she seem to know the Star Palace so well? Why does she seem to have been here before? Filled with doubts and puzzlement, he didn't think too much. He came to the side of the rock and looked at the xianguang. He injected some aura into the rock and the big tree. He used his hand to find a hidden cave. It was only the size of a fist. Fortunately, the cave wasn't deep. He took out a glass-like stone from the inside. It was a stone. It was glassy yellow and had the appearance of a butterfly. It looked like a yellow butterfly spreading its wings. In the center of the stone, there were 2 strands of silk embedded. The 2 strands of silk were entangled together and looked like a piece of amber. A piece of amber with strands of silk. He tried to figure it out. After thinking for a while, he released his full circle sensing ability. It was fine if he didn't sense it. He actually sensed the aura of Dai Yi and Ao Tian Chanhan from the amber. This meant that the 2 strands of silk belonged to Dai Yi and Ao Tian Chanhan. In an instant, he knew that the relationship between the 2 wasn't simple. The strands of silk were entangled together. It was as if Dai Yi and Ao Tian Chanhan were hugging each other forever. This was a keepsake. It was also a kind of testimony. Chi, after observing it for a while, he decisively released his pure yang, true fire, and burned the butterfly-shaped silk gem. The stone was burned until it turned into a lifelike butterfly. This form was the same as the one Su Fong had seen when Dai Yi released her divine aura. Who dares to come to my training ground? A shocking wave of divine aura suddenly pressed down from above. This divine aura appeared with Su Fong. When he saw it, it had turned into a familiar figure. This was the incomparably powerful woman he had seen before. Hen Buhui. Her figure was several zhang tall. This was actually her aura. The aura instantly jumped and turned into the real Hen Buhui. "It's you." She almost teleported and suddenly appeared in front of Su Fong. Everything around her was under her control. "It's me." It was Hen Buhui. She was one of Ao Tian Chanhen's 2 disciples. Su Fong was speechless and felt powerless. There was indeed no excuse for him to suddenly come to Ao Tian Peak. At this moment, the flames he released had been burned and turned into dust. Hen Buhui retracted most of her aura. She still shouted in an unforgiving tone, "This is Ao Tian Peak. Normal disciples are not allowed to enter. I remember that you are Su Fong. Later on, you were given the name Huangfu Xiaohua. Also, I heard that not long ago, you became the first Eternal Star in the Eternal Star competition and entered the treasured artifact Mystic Realm. Although the constellation of 9 heavens was very big, it was also very small. Even the slightest thing was known to outsiders clearly. Seeing that Su Fong did not say anything for a long time, Hen Buhui became even angrier. "Speak. Why did you come to my training ground?" "I came to..." He could not act dumb. It was useless. Su Fong did not know how to answer. "Little Hui, don't make things difficult for him." Who knew that Ao Tian Chanen's voice came from somewhere in the world? It suddenly sounded clearly in the valley where the two were. "Master!" Hen Buhui immediately bowed. "Senior!" Su Fong also responded. Ao Tian Chanen's voice was heard. "Young man, you're growing very quickly. Every time I see you, you are different. You have already become a heaven immortal, surpassing any ascendant I have ever seen. This time, you came to my training ground because she asked you to. That thing also turned into dust in your hands. You could not have known that there was something here. Only she knew. Even little Hui and little June did not know." Su Fong trembled. "Senior is wise. I was forced. Who knew that I would meet that senior in the Huang Zhe astral realm? She asked me to come to Line Valley no matter what." "I understand. Let's go. It seems that I was right to ask you to come to Ao Tian Peak and be rejected by you. It is better for you if you can rely on yourself to become stronger step by step. Sorry to disturb you." He turned and disappeared in an instant. Hen Buhui looked at the void in the training ground and was worried. "Master, I heard that Senior Dai killed Elder Swaning Chuan. That is a big shot who is on the same level as you. The sect will not let that senior go this time. That's what I owe her. The sect owes her too. Our Star Palace is a righteous force, but what we did back then was extremely shameless. Don't worry about this. I have already asked June to rush to Huang Zhe Star World secretly. I only hope that everything that started with me can end with me. It is a pity that I am not strong enough. This has nothing to do with you." After Ao Tian Chanhen finished speaking, his voice disappeared completely. As for Hen Buhui, she was silent for a moment. She then leaped and disappeared from this special valley. Treasured artifact, secret realm. Once Su Fong returned to the training ground in the Celestial Pool Peak, he was finally able to catch his breath. It was really a close call, just now. He had recklessly stepped into someone else's training ground. That temper of Hen Buhui would definitely make him suffer. Chapter 1054. Celestial Pool Peak. Inside the refining cave, controlled by Mu Shuo, Su Fong, who had just returned from Proud Sky Peak, found many disciples from other refining caves as soon as he stepped in. These people had heard that he had started to refine weapons and were waiting to watch the show. 1 told 10, and 10 told 100. Previously, he had fought with the high-level disciples in public, and now he was refining weapons. How could it not arouse the curiosity of others? Su Fong came to the top of the cauldron and performed a handprint to control the genuine fire. Every movement was a joke in the eyes of these people. To them, in terms of refining weapons, Su Fong was a child who had just learned how to walk. Over time, more and more disciples came to watch the show. However, the disciples who had come before lost interest in laughing. Very few disciples came to make a fuss. The purple Chi Dharma spirit and the blood vessels in my right hand are merging bit by bit. The great pregnant purple Chi is indeed powerful. I don't know why, but I feel familiar with the 3 cauldrons in the refining cave. Another period of time passed in this almost boring state. Su Fong put all his attention on absorbing the great pregnant purple chi. As for refining weapons, it was just the beginning. In his right arm, the purple chi Dharma spirit was merging with his meridians faster and faster. More and more meridians were merging with the purple chi Dharma spirit. There were many meridians in his right arm. The purple chi Dharma spirit had only merged with one meridian in the past. However, after cultivating in Su Fong for so many years, it had slowly merged with several meridians. Now that it was swallowing the great pregnant purple chi, the merging between the purple chi Dharma spirit and his body had increased by 100 times. More than 10 meridians were merging with the purple chi Dharma spirit. According to this, it was very likely that at some point in the future, by absorbing a large amount of great pregnant purple chi in the celestial pool peak, the purple chi Dharma spirit would merge with his entire right arm and then extend to his entire body. If his entire body merged with the purple chi Dharma spirit and his meridians had the power of the purple chi Dharma spirit, then what kind of monster would Su Fong's body become? He could not predict it. However, he was looking forward to it. The Star Palace had so much great pregnant purple chi. A sect had been established for countless years. When the purple chi Dharma spirit that had been condensed for countless years was swallowed by Su Fong, what kind of monster would he be? By the way, in a few days, senior brother Qing Kuei's Qingyuan cauldron will be born. At that time, there will be many Taoist temples in the precious tool mystic realm to observe the birth of a cauldron. At that time, even Elder Luan and many other mysterious higher-ups will appear. Is the Azure Essence Cauldron about to appear? Senior apprentice brother Qing Kuei spent thousands of years refining this magical item. Furthermore, it's a cauldron that is extremely difficult to refine. The higher-ups will naturally pay attention to it. Nowadays, many disciples have compressed the date of the magical equipment they are about to successfully forge. When the day comes, they all hope to show it in front of the higher-ups. It is indeed a good opportunity. Unfortunately, my Dharma treasure was refined a long time ago. Currently, this Dharma treasure still has to wait for 1,000 years before it can burn the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. It will take around 1,000 years for it to be refined successfully. On this day, Mu Shuo suddenly came to the space and summoned dozens of high-level disciples. It turned out that there would be a gathering in the artifact's secret realm soon. The main reason was that Qing Kuei was about to succeed in refining the Azure Essence Cauldron. The precious tool secret domain was huge, and there were many dojos like the Extreme Heavens Pool Peak. Most of the tens of thousands of disciples would gather there to observe. It was a good opportunity. Su Fong, who had been waiting for a long time, was eager to give it a try. On such a good day for the higher-ups to gather, he could finally create a shocking thunder according to his previous plan. At this time, Mu Shuo suddenly flew over with a few disciples and landed in front of Su Fong. Huangfu Shaoying, you've been in my space for a few years. This is a ball of true fire. You can control it in front of everyone. Let's see if you've been slacking off during this time. He also took out a large cauldron that was closest to him, and it burned with a sizzling flame that was more than 10 feet long. The flame was like a burning beast, and it sizzled in front of Su Fong. The flame was so terrifying that Su Fong almost couldn't open his eyes. This is bad. Su Fong suddenly realized that Mu Shuo was up to no good. Moreover, after he left the flame, he retreated to the other side alone and stood with his hands behind his back, making himself an outsider. A few disciples released their divine power. Do it. We don't keep trash here. One of the disciples impolitely gestured. Use this ball of flame to form a seal and condense it into the shape of a Heaven and Earth Tao Palace of a huge flaming sword. After Su Fong bowed, how could he not understand what these people were thinking? They were openly using their status and power to suppress him, step on his head, and do whatever they wanted to do. Hua, hua, hua. The seals turned into waves of seals that enveloped the shocking burning flame that was more than 10 feet long. Then, they continued to form seals under the gazes of the few people. The burning flame began to surge, and some flame seals drilled into it. Through a large number of complicated hand seals, The flame began to slowly extend to both sides, gradually showing the shape of a burning sword star. Mu Shuo, who was at the side, suddenly snorted. Su Fong was about to condense the flame into a burning sword body. With his strength, he could easily control the flame, but suddenly, a void divine power seeped into the true fire sword body. Boom! It was like a volcanic eruption. The moment the flame sword body was out of control, Su Fong was so shocked that he did not have time to react. The divine power he controlled suddenly exploded, and the flames of the huge sword went out of control. At the moment of the explosion, his entire body was blown away. Work hard. Don't go to the gathering in a few days. Stay here and guard the Dharma treasures inside the cauldron. Mu Shuo did not look at Su Fong's life and death. He led the few people away in embarrassment. The explosion sent Su Fong flying more than 10 feet before he landed on the ground with sparks. He was almost in a severely injured state. Although there were no external injuries, his muscles, organs, and meridians were all severely injured by the explosion. Mu Shuo, who can kill a heaven immortal Tao realm disciple, wants my life again. This person indeed has 10,000 ways to deal with me. There's not much time left. I have to condense the heaven and earth Tao palace in the next few days. Then, when that day comes, let's see if you, Mu Shuo, can still laugh. He could not take this lying down. He had wanted his lifetime and time again. With someone like Mu Shuo, it was either you die or I live. The other disciples also saw that he was seriously injured this time. They were not idiots. How could they not see? They did not dare to look at him, afraid that they would get into trouble. He was seriously injured. After returning to the top of the 3 cauldrons, he used his great perfection ability and swallowed some middle-grade immortal essence pills. Everything was fine. However, the primordial purple vapor around the cave had been completely devoured by Su Fong in the past few years. The purple vapor Dharma spirit had already merged with his right arm and wrist. It was slowly merging with his arm and shoulder. After some time, the surrounding disciples gradually left. It turned out that they had all gone to look at the green essence cauldron. They probably would not be back for some time. He was almost the only one left. This was great. Su Fong quickly seized this opportunity. On one hand, he condensed the heaven and earth Tao palace. On the other hand, he released the power of his right arm with all his strength. He activated the purple vapor Dharma spirit and directly absorbed the primordial purple vapor from one of the cauldrons. The purple vapor Dharma spirit kept vibrating in his arm. The primordial purple vapor Dharma spirit was so magical. The purple vapor Dharma spirit had already crossed his forearm and reached his arm. This way, his right arm would quickly merge with the purple vapor Dharma spirit. Slowly, it would become the astonishing power of this rare treasure. In the empty cave, Su Fong suddenly felt like talking to someone. Luo, I feel that refining pills is similar to refining weapons. I don't find it that difficult. Luo suddenly sighed. Although you haven't been cultivating for a long time, you have experienced many wonderful things. Life is full of ups and downs, and you are an expert in alchemy. Many things are the same, and refining is the same. There is nothing wrong with you having this kind of feeling. For example, although I rarely refine pills and refine weapons, I also know these very well. If you really want to refine weapons and refine pills, it is very simple. This is the nature of cultivation to a certain height. Many things become simple. This is the nature of things and also the nature of cultivation. Just like this, in the remaining few days, Su Fong settled in the space alone and secretly condensed a sword-shaped heaven and earth Tao palace. On this day, when Su Fong left the celestial pool peak, he did not sense many people. There were only a dozen people inside like him, guarding the cauldron. Even Huang Liao had disappeared. He had probably gone to watch the show. Flying in the air for a while, he saw that in the depths of the countless weapon refining halls, there was a not very tall but very majestic mountain. Arriving in the air above the mountain, he saw tens of thousands of disciples gathered in the plaza. It was really a hubbub of voices. The few disciples of the celestial pool peak seemed insignificant here. In order not to alarm Mu Shuo, He used his perfect circle ability from afar. He saw that in the center of the tens of thousands of people's attention, the flame formation was constantly burning. A cauldron burning with a blue fiendish aura was under the control of Qing Kuei, who was forming hand seals. It was constantly emitting a fiendish aura similar to Tribulation aura. It's actually a magic treasure that's at the peak of middle grade. Su Fong was very surprised. Seeing Qing Kuei form hand seals, he sighed inside. This Qing Kuei is very skilled in forging. Why is he only able to forge middle-grade magical treasures? He can definitely forge high-grade magical treasures. That's right, he can probably forge flying sword-type high-grade Dao items, but he can't forge complex high-grade Dao items like cauldrons. That's why his Qingyuan cauldron is only at the peak of middle-grade Dao items. He must be very ambitious. Once this Qingyuan cauldron succeeds, the next step will be to forge high-grade cauldrons. He saw another dozen disciples helping Qing Kuei control a shocking amount of spirit liquid. In front of tens of thousands of disciples and over 100 higher-ups, they splashed the cauldron. A burst of blue light suddenly shot into the clouds, transforming into a huge cauldron. He had succeeded. It was as if the surrounding sky was shaking. Genius. He really is a genius. This was also the first time Su Fong had seen how a magical treasure was successfully forged. He quietly flew to the plaza. Shouts and cries could be heard everywhere. Disciples began to appear in the square, forming spell formations and taking out their magical items to begin the final step. This was the best opportunity for them to prove themselves. Suddenly, while everyone was supporting Qing Kuei and paying attention to several disciples forging artifacts, an ordinary disciple at the heavenly immortal realm had unknowingly appeared among the higher-ups. The higher-ups began to size up this ordinary disciple who had suddenly appeared. Who would dare to be so unruly? Furthermore, in the eyes of these higher-ups, Qing Kuei was today's main character. The other disciples were just supporting characters. Su Fong was almost unable to stand, and the one sitting in the center was the supreme elder of the precious artifact secret realm, Heavenly Master Luan. This person had a majestic aura and was also an old figure. Seeing Su Fong's awkward situation, he nodded in front of everyone. Huangfu Shaoying, what's the matter? Disciple greets Elder Luan and the other elders. Only then did Su Fong walk up quickly. Isn't that Huangfu Shaoying? It's him. He's a disciple of our heavenly pool peak. Strange, didn't senior apprentice brother tell him to obediently stay in the Dao sect? Many disciples at the front also noticed the commotion among the higher-ups. Some of them didn't feel anything, but some disciples from the heavenly pool peak immediately exploded. Chapter 1055. Even Mu Shua couldn't help but come over from a large number of higher-ups. Many disciples gathered around him. Mu Shua took a deep breath. Fury almost shot out from his eyes. Is this brat going to complain to the higher-ups? Is he really going to complain? Unexpectedly, Yuan Yifeng didn't try to curry favor with Qing Kuei and congratulated her on her success. He brought a few of his confidants to Mu Shua's side. Mu Shua nodded and was very polite. I've already asked this brat to stay in the space training hall and not let him participate in any activities. I will make him lose his sense of existence step by step. No genius or opportunity will be related to him. When he loses his sense of existence, I will kill him. Senior Brother Yuan, this is what Senior Brother Li told me. He must have told you about it. Senior Brother Li. Naturally, it was the special disciple Li Tianqi, a peerless disciple. Yuan Yifeng patted Mu Shua's shoulder. Don't worry about taking care of Huangfu Shaoying at the Celestial Pool Peak. But he wants to complain. He thinks that this is the marketplace of the mortal world. With just his words, the higher-ups won't believe a word of his. Not a single word. We, the higher-ups, have made so many contributions. He is just the eternal star son who just came to the training hall. If we let him complain, the higher-ups will be disgusted. Senior brother is right. Just based on his extravagant words, he is just showing off. The training hall respects contributions, strength, and status. He is just a beggar. Wait and see. Don't be impatient. Yuan Yifang's strength and status were first class in front of Mu Shuo. Now, like a big brother, he wanted to protect Mu Shuo. Huangfu Shaoying, what do you want to say? The higher-ups, sitting beside Master Luan, was also an elder. Although the elders around them weren't elders, they had the same status as Huangfu Duan and Huangfu Yanhai. They weren't as patient as Master Luan. Their aura was like a flash of lightning. At this moment, Su Fong felt like his body was about to be torn apart by this aura. However, he still kept his cool. He remembered this high-ranking official. When he looked at the other high-ranking officials, which one of them didn't have an overbearing appearance, he bowed in front of everyone and said, "Disciple has tried countless times to refine treasures in private. After repeated deliberations, Disciple has finally refined a sword body Dao treasure. It is just one step away from being born successfully. I hope that the upper echelons will give Disciple a chance. Let Disciple borrow this treasure from the cauldron and successfully refine it." "You can refine magic treasures?" The elder from before was speechless. The surrounding higher-ups also changed their divine auras. A high-level official not far from Master Luan stroked his 1-foot-long beard and said, "You can't joke about this. Young man, it's right that you have the will to fight and courage. It's worthy of praise, but one must be down to earth. Cultivation requires one to take one step at a time. Upper echelons, this is the embryonic form of the Tao artifact that this disciple has spent a lot of effort to refine for the first time." None of the higher-ups believed it. Thinking about it carefully, it made sense. This generation's eternal star son had just arrived at the celestial pool peak not long ago. How could he possibly refine treasures on his own? Following that, Su Fong suddenly grabbed a Xianguang. Indeed, there was a black flying sword sealed by a formation floating inside. There was some liquid inside that was intertwined with a solid sword imprint. The elder that looked down on Su Fong before stood up and said, "It is indeed the embryonic form of the Tao artifact flying sword. I can also see that there are many hand imprints on this flying sword, as well as true fire imprints. Logically speaking, an eternal star son shouldn't have such methods. Who is in charge of him at the celestial pool peak? We can't be careless about this matter. The disciples in charge of the celestial pool peak for the past few thousand years are Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifang. Let them come over and explain it clearly." Most of the higher-ups didn't believe that Su Fong could refine the embryonic form of the Tao artifact. No matter how talented he would still need close to 10,000 years. In the end, an elder released his divine might and publicly asked Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifang to come to the front of the higher-ups. Some of the tens of thousands of disciples were surrounding Qin Kuei, while some were continuing to watch the other disciples refine treasures. However, many of them were now looking at the higher-ups, guessing what had happened. They didn't understand why the higher-ups were so concerned about an ordinary disciple. Two disciples quickly walked to the higher-ups, and Yuan Yifang glanced at Qin Kuei. Qin Kuei had successfully refined the Qin Yuan cauldron and was very proud of himself. He was currently at a new height in his life. Yuan Yifang fiercely glared at Su Fong, who was gradually becoming clearer, and said, "Senior apprentice brother, I think this Huangfu Shaoying has bad intentions. If this is the case, then you and I won't know whether to laugh or cry. This kid has never stopped since he came to my Tao sect. Our treasure artifact, Secret Realm, isn't as complicated as the grand ancient Tao sect. I only hope that after refining the Qing Yuan cauldron, my next goal will be to refine a high-grade Tao artifact cauldron. I don't care about the miscellaneous matters of the celestial pool peak. I will let the higher-ups divulge this matter. In the future, Junior Apprentice Brother will be fully in charge of the celestial pool peak." However, Qin Kuei said something that made Yuan Yifang's heart burst with joy. If Senior Apprentice Brother can successfully refine a high-grade Tao artifact cauldron, then Senior Apprentice Brother will definitely be the youngest person in the past 10,000 years and have the highest chance of becoming an elder. Junior Apprentice Brother, congratulations. This matter will take a long time. When they arrived in front of the higher-ups, Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifang's expressions froze. They almost simultaneously glanced at Su Fong and then bowed to the higher-ups. However, when they saw Su Fong's sword body prototype and heard the higher-ups' questions, they both revealed a shocked expression. They treated Su Fong like a stranger. In front of the higher-ups who were waiting for an answer, Yuan Yifeng suddenly shook his head. We usually follow the instructions of the higher-ups and watch the progress of each disciple. This Huangfu Shaoying has just officially entered the refining space. It hasn't even been 10 years. How can he refine a magic treasure alone? No one in the Dao sect knows about this. It's very doubtful whether this sword body prototype was refined by him. Many higher-ups stared at each other. One of the higher-ups beside Master Luan said, Huangfu Shaoying, the two of them are standing in front of you now. They don't even know about your refining. How can you refine a magic treasure alone without anyone noticing? Su Fong turned sideways in front of the higher-ups and the two disciples. I'm mediocre and don't have the qualifications to use the cauldron to refine. There's no other way. I've always wanted to refine magic treasures, but the Eternal Star Sun who just arrived did not have that kind of opportunity. However, I'm unwilling to give up. Fortunately, I use some methods to first melt various raw materials, then enter the refining space of the Celestial Pole Pool Peak and put the fused materials into the cauldron. I believe that many disciples of the Celestial Pole Pool Peak know about this. As an ordinary disciple, I can't use the resources of the Celestial Pole Pool Peak, but I will think of a way. All of this is to serve the Dao sect as soon as possible and refine a Dao artifact to gain merit. But this can't prove that you refined it, Yuan Yifeng said calmly. It could be heard that he did not deliberately make things difficult for Su Fong. As long as the higher-ups give me a chance and let me refine this magic treasure here, I think everything can be proven. What do the higher-ups mean? Qin Kuei nodded towards the higher-ups. One of the higher-ups said, the Dao sect is fair. Every disciple has the right. Now is not the time to investigate who refined this embryonic sword. Since you're willing to go up and try, we'll talk about it after the result. Elder Wan, what do you think? Yes, every disciple has a chance. Go up and try. Master Wan nodded openly. Many thanks, higher-ups. Su Fong swept away the Amei sect with indifference. He saluted to the higher-ups and then shot a cold glance at Yuan Yifeng. He turned around and walked toward the square. Some disciples had already received orders from the higher-ups to prepare a cauldron. Senior brother, this kid is very arrogant. Regardless of whether he succeeds or not, it's very difficult to control this kind of disciple. If the Dao sect is like this in the future, you and I won't be able to interfere. What I said before is my opinion. I just want to refine a high-grade cauldron as soon as possible. You'll be responsible for the rest. Many thanks, senior brother. Yuan Yifeng looked at Su Fong's departing figure unwillingly and chatted with Qin Kuei. He did not expect Qin Kuei to support his idea. What disciple is that? He's a disciple from the Heavenly Pool Peak. That disciple should be Huangfu Shaoying. I heard he's the first Eternal Star Child of this generation. Although he's not one of the 10 Eternal Star Children, his talent is shocking. He's going to refine an item. The 10,000-year competition has only been going on for a short period of time. How can he refine an item on his own in such a short period of time? To be able to enter the Heavenly Pool Peak and enter the Heavenly Pool Peak, that means he only spent a short amount of time to memorize all the information, materials. He's definitely a genius. To be able to refine an item on his own in just a dozen years, he's only a heavenly immortal. What kind of joke is that? When a higher-up's disciple released a cauldron, the surrounding tens of thousands of disciples understood that another disciple was going to refine an item, but they didn't know who it was. However, as Su Fong walked over and released the aura of a heavenly immortal, it was so insignificant that it attracted everyone's attention. This is what I want. After enduring hardships for so many years and coming to the constellation of 9 heavens for 100 years, this is the best opportunity for me to rise. Most of these people want to see me make a fool of myself, but it's not certain who will be the fool in the end. Su Fong was able to hear every sound and see every movement clearly. This was the ability of a great perfection paragon. Arriving in front of the cauldron, he activated the formation and scanned the surroundings. He remembered tens of thousands of disciples, and there were quite a few female disciples. There were also quite a few peerless disciples like Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifang. The feeling he got from them was that they were not as domineering as Qi Yinzi or as strong as Henbu Hui, but they all had a simple and unadorned aura. It was probably the accumulation of a great artifact that could only be obtained after countless years of experience by artificers. Tens of thousands of disciples, as well as some higher-ups, were all looking at Su Fang, who was controlling the formation. Chi-Chi. They didn't expect a flame to rush into the sword body heaven and earth Tao palace, and the cauldron to spit out a shocking flame. The two flames merged into one and burned the sword body heaven and earth Tao palace crazily. Su Fang also struck out a dazzling handprint. Incredible, incredible. Only a portion of those blacksmithing handprints belong to the Star Palace. How can this person control the real fire divine ability to such an extent? Only the experts were exclaiming. The higher-ups only knew how shocking Su Fang's techniques were. Even Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifang, who were in front of the higher-ups, were greatly shocked. Was the disciple who was refining a weapon their subordinate? How is it possible? This Huangfu young hero has only been in the training ground for a few hundred years. How can he have such a fire attribute divine ability and the ability to control cauldrons and materials? Among the disciples of the celestial pool peak, Huangfu Ju's face was extremely distorted. Of course, there was Huangfu Rui at the side. These disciples were the ones who were most familiar with Su Fang's background. Even now, they couldn't tell what kind of disciple Su Fang was. He was so capable, and he was even an eternal star son who had just entered the training ground. Under countless gazes, Su Fang's fire attribute divine power merged perfectly with the cauldron and spat out real fire divine ability like a ferocious beast. It burned the liquid inside the sword body heaven and earth Tao palace until there were no more sparks. Chapter 1056. Naturally, this scene could not escape Su Fang's eyes. The others were too far away and could only see most of it. He smiled in his heart. My pure yang energy can activate the pure yang true fire and the illusory fire cloud. I can control any substance. This is my current ability. And I don't know what's going on. At this moment, he did not care about any of the actions of the tens of thousands of disciples. Even the higher-ups felt that he was the only one who existed on this peak. His hands secretly activated the illusory fire cloud. There was the supreme divine power of the pure yang true fire in his body. When these two powers merged, it turned into a supreme divine power that even he could not understand. It was as if the flying sword that was about to succeed had been obediently and actively cooperating with him. He could not figure out. Having too many doubts in his heart would affect his willpower and concentration. He could only ask Luo. Luo spoke. I'm not very clear about the specifics. You have many special physiques, great perfection abilities, blood transformation true body, and Black Lotus true body. I can't say if these have anything to do with it. But you cultivate the pure yang energy. Rumor has it that the pure yang energy is the most powerful and domineering power. I think it has something to do with this. But I think the most relevant thing is the purple chi dharma spirit. The purple chi dharma spirit. I know that this magic treasure's ability is only to sense magic treasures in purple chi. Then you're wrong. The purple chi dharma spirit is condensed from the purple chi at the moment when countless magic treasures are refined. It is a unique existence in the world. Since you know about the Xinjia Gate, you should know how powerful that ancient Tao tool is. The purple chi dharma spirit is unknown. No one in the great world has heard of it. But this does not mean that it is inferior to the Xinjia Gate. No matter how powerful the Xinjia Gate is, it is just a magic treasure. It also needs to be upgraded time and time again to become stronger. But this purple chi dharma spirit is not a magic treasure, but a spiritual body. It can gather luck, control great luck, and absorb the most mysterious luck in the world. You can now make the cauldron cooperate with you. This is probably because you have absorbed a large amount of great fertility purple chi during this period of time. It's so wonderful and mysterious. Why can't I understand it at all? You can't understand it because your purple chi dharma spirit is not perfect. There's still a part missing. You can't understand it because you have just started to come into contact with the purple chi dharma spirit and great fertility purple chi. Since the purple chi dharma spirit was born from the magic treasure purple chi, then it should be able to control over magic treasure's aura. I really can't believe it. When you get all the purple chi dharma spirit, how high will this treasure? In the future, when you... Teat. It was a treasure. It belonged to him. About half a day later, under countless gazes, Su Fong took out a treasure bottle. Under the burning of true fire, he splashed it on the bright red flying sword with a huff. Suddenly, a purple gas. It was like steam. It was just a little bit. It soared into the sky. Then, it was followed by a white smoke and a mysterious light. The light merged with the purple light. It did not look as dazzling as the white smoke, but it disappeared into the depths of heaven and earth. Look, that light is the great pregnant purple gas. Law said, "It's my first time seeing the great pregnant purple gas at such a close distance." He stopped controlling it. When the white smoke rose into the sky, countless disciples looked over. A black flying sword floated perfectly in the white smoke. It had the divine power and simplicity of a Tao artifact. It also had the starry halo of the constellation of 9 heavens. My first Tao artifact. Call it the star's heavenly square sword. Whoosh! He turned around and flew under the eyes of countless disciples. So many eyes followed him. He landed on the ground, in front of Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifeng. He handed the star's heavenly square sword to Luan Heaven Master. The other higher-ups walked out and gathered beside Luan Heaven Master. They praised, "Not bad, not bad. Although it is a low-grade Tao artifact, its quality and control are not bad. You can see many sword seals in my dojo." Yuan Yifeng felt as if he was electrocuted. Damn it, this brat is using such a good opportunity to show off. If that's the case, won't he become an official disciple? He suddenly walked out and questioned in front of everyone, "Senior brothers, we only saw the later part of the refining process. It is not enough to prove that the initial part of the refining process was done by him. Everyone needs to think about it. This matter cannot be decided so rashly." Yuan Yifeng is anxious. He sneered. Su Fong smiled, but did not say anything. "Your words are reasonable, but the refining of the flying sword was successful. There is no doubt about it. The higher-ups acknowledged the refining process. Everyone. Originally, Su Fong was waiting to listen to the orders. He waited quietly, and then he would be praised by the higher-ups. However, he did not expect to walk out. "Senior brother Yuan is very concerned about my refining. It also makes me restless. It is not the smell. I have been thinking. I hope that the higher-ups will give me a spacious dojo and let everyone visit. I want to refine a low-grade Tao artifact within 10 years. Luan Heaven Master suddenly handed the star's heavenly square sword to an elder and shouted, "Refining a low-grade Tao artifact within 10 years? You are a heavenly immortal. You can't joke like this." Since Luan Heaven Master was so serious, Su Fong did not dare to be negligent. "I am not joking. I just want to prove to all the disciples and the higher-ups that I am qualified and have the right to refine Tao artifacts. I also have the qualifications that everyone has. Moreover, Senior Brother Yuan suspects me. I should also prove this. Otherwise, I will always be talked about behind my back. However, if I succeed in refining a low-grade Tao artifact within 10 years, I also hope that the higher-ups will give me great freedom in the future. You can let me go out to experience and search for treasures. In the future, I can refine more Tao artifact for the dojo." Heavenly Master Luan said in a majestic voice, "You have such a strong fighting spirit. I promise you that if you can refine this magic treasure within 10 years, you will be the same as the high-level disciples. You will have the right to freely refine magic treasures and go in and out of the peaks. Not only that, it is rare for a heavenly immortal to refine magic treasures in the history of my dojo. You are such a genius. Once you refine the magic treasure, I will publicly select you and nominate you as a special disciple. In the future, you will most likely become a special disciple. In this way, no one will say anything behind your back. My sect needs talented disciples. Whoever can make contributions to the sect should be entrusted with important tasks by the sect. Thank you, Elder Luan. Thank you, higher-ups. Qin Kuei, go to the Celestial Pool Peak and open up a secret space. Let Huangfu, Shaoying stay there quietly and refine Dao artifacts within 10 years. You can let the disciples observe, but don't disturb him. As for his refining process, no one is allowed to ask. We will know the result after 10 years. Yes, disciple. As Luan Heaven Master ordered Qin Kuei immediately nodded to Su Fong and flew away from the square with him and a few other disciples. Luan Heaven Master let the other higher-ups continue to preside over the square while he and a few others went to the depths of the square. Although these few old men were not elders of the treasure artifact secret realm, there were still higher-ups and elites whose status was only slightly lower than Luan Heaven Master. The star's heavenly square sword appeared in front of everyone. Luan Heaven Master said, "Everyone, take a good look at this Dao artifact. From the surface, you can see that it is simple and unadorned. It has the heaviness of a great artifact. There is no impulsiveness or flaw. Although it does not have any special ability, its refining technique is definitely passable. Most of the disciples who have cultivated for more than 10,000 years can't reach such a height. Huangfu Shaoying is a good seedling to become a great artifact refiner tomorrow." The few old men could naturally see the heaviness of the great artifact flying sword. Refining Dao artifacts was not difficult. What was difficult was the heaviness that existed with heaven and earth. But what this child has shown today is not only talent, but also competitiveness. I estimate that his cultivation is not enough and needs to settle down. If he suddenly has too much power and control, his future path will be even more difficult. He still needs to be polished. Yes, this child is indeed too sharp. Although it is said that cultivation requires courage, this is after all not the great ancient Taoist sect. This old man feels that this is actually very good. It can stimulate the cultivation desire of every disciple. Alchemy and artifact, refining Taoist sects are like stagnant water. With a disciple like him, it will instead have a stimulating effect. Yes, the old men spoke one by one. As the higher-ups of a Taoist sect, they were discussing how to arrange a rising genius disciple in the future. Outside the square, suddenly, a few disciples left the square. They were no longer in the mood to watch the other disciples refine Dao artifacts. They came to the depths of the forest. At first glance, they saw Huangfu Ju leading Huangfu Rue and the others. Unexpectedly, Huangfu Rue suddenly knelt down in front of a large rock, condensing runes and igniting them with true fire. He cursed at the rock. Huangfu Shaoying, "I curse you to fall to your death when walking, choke to death when drinking water, sleep to death when sleeping, smack your butt to death, and burn to death when refining Dao artifacts. Trash, is this of any use?" Huangfu Ju kicked his butt. Huangfu Rue patted the dust. "Senior brother, don't be angry. I implicated you. Last time, it was my fault, but Huangfu Shaoying really did not put you in his eyes. He is just a newly promoted Eternal Star son. What's so great about him? If not for the poisonous gas last time, I would have already killed him. However, I am not the only one who has to deal with him. There are many others, especially Mu Shuo. I have to cooperate with this person to get rid of Huangfu Shaoying. Senior brother, you have to be quick. It's all because of you trash. You have been in the Taoist sect for more than 10,000 years, but none of you have been able to refine Dao artifacts. On the other hand, Huangfu Shaoying did it in a few decades. This was probably the portrayal of Huangfu Rue and the others' current feelings. Celestial Pool Peak. In a cave inside, Qin Kuei and some disciples led Su Fong step by step to the depths. They called out a few disciples inside and also took away 2 treasure cauldrons, leaving only 1 cauldron. Qin Kuei and Su Fong came to the cave space and looked at the big cauldron. Within 10 years, you will refine Tao artifacts here. Senior brother, senior sister Wang told me about what happened last time. Thank you for your help, senior brother. While there was no one around, Su Fong also thanked Qin Kuei. I have a good relationship with junior sister. I helped you this time because of her. In the future, when I want to refine Tao artifacts, you will be in charge of your own matters. No one can help you forever, and I don't have the energy. At least, you don't have to worry about anyone harming you in these 10 years. After giving some instructions, he left. Chapter 1057. Qin Kuei didn't really leave. She just set up a formation outside, changing the formation of the artifact refining space once again. Many disciples came to watch the show. They didn't expect a nameless eternal star sun to be able to refine artifacts and have the honor of opening an artifact refining training ground. After a while, Qin Kuei and a few other high-level disciples came again. She asked Su Fong what he needed and quickly got people to find a lot of materials. There were spirit liquids, gems, origin stones, and so on. After satisfying all of Su Fong's requests, Qin Kuei brought people out of the formation and sealed it. With my ability, I'm progressing step by step according to the plan. As long as I have the authority of a high-level disciple, I can go to the cauldron and absorb the great pregnant purple qi. I can also use the cauldron to improve the quality of the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda, the Flaming Cloud Spirit Gourd, and the Starry Daylight Sword. There's also the nomination of a special disciple. That's a supreme honor. Once I have it, even Mu Shuo can't do anything to me, unless it's a disciple like Yuani Fong. The most important thing is that I can absorb the great pregnant purple qi. With a sweep of his gaze, he saw that there were about 20 disciples outside the formation. There were higher-ups, and there were also a few new Eternal Star Suns. Su Fong released his true fire and threw some immortal stones, gems, and special materials into the cauldron. Then he released the sword formation. Some irregular materials that needed to be polished were thrown into the sword formation. This way, the sword formation could be used to polish the materials. It's not difficult for a high-level disciple to refine a low-grade Tao artifact in 10 years. But for a heavenly immortal disciple like me to succeed, I'm definitely worthy of being called a genius in the artifact's secret realm. As time passed, more and more people came to watch, but it was always around 100 people. Su Fong was also numb. He knew what he had to do. Oh, a few months passed. Su Fong, who was polishing materials, suddenly sensed something. He glanced outside and saw the crowd opening up a path. A few important people from Huangfu training grounds came. They were actually high-level disciples led by Qiu Ranzheng. There were Qiu Ranzheng, Huangfu Xiaoxiao, and Huangfu Yinhai. There were about 10 people. Without waiting for Su Fong to speak, Qiu Ranzheng stepped into the formation with everyone else. Although this was the treasure mystic realm, the upper echelons of the other dojos were qualified to enter. Furthermore, Qiu Ranzheng was an elder. Disciple Huangfu Shaoying greets the higher-ups. He quickly walked up to greet them. Huangfu Yinhai was the first to praise him. This time you really shocked the entire Tao Right Temple. With your heavenly immortal cultivation, you've only been in the treasure item secret realm for 20 years, but you're already able to refine treasures on your own. Now, this news has spread throughout the Tao Right Temple. Huangfu Cloud Sea. Seeing this person, Su Fong felt a wave of disgust. He really knew how to act. Inwardly, he sneered. You old fox, back then you were the one who stole the Ghost Fong 4-sided disc from me. My Su Fong will definitely get revenge for that. But this person is a high-level figure. Isn't this the best time to shed all pretenses? He could only laugh nonstop. These upper echelons had come on behalf of the Huangfu Tao Plaza. They seemed to be extremely concerned about him, but in truth, they were just going through the motions. Furthermore, when Su Fong had needed help the most, not a single person had come. His so-called Tao Plaza hadn't been able to get any help. Now that he had suddenly become famous, they had all rushed over to greet him. Could it be any less real? But Su Fong didn't expose him. After observing for a while, Qiu Ranzheng called Su Fong over. My sect has finally produced a genius in the treasure mystic realm. The Dao Plaza would like to reward you. Your contribution is something that the Dao Plaza can see. This storage ring contains 10 million mid-grade immortal pills, 10 mid-grade Dao items, and quite a few offensive and defensive talismans. There are also all kinds of spiritual items. I hope you can continue to work hard in the treasure mystic realm. Many thanks. Su Fong accepted the storage ring. He felt that it was quite heavy. To an ordinary heavenly immortal disciple, this storage ring was truly a great gift. Su Fong had obtained everything from the ancient devil Dao Plaza, so he didn't care about such things. The young miss also knows of this matter. She is currently in the desolate Pawn Star realm. When she returns, she will specially come to see you. Good luck. Before Huangfu Xiao left, she also secretly warned him. Huangfu Fei. She was truly an extremely troublesome expert. After sending off those people, he didn't expect Wang Yuzhen to also come. Originally, there were only 100 or so disciples outside the formation. But as more and more people came to see Su Fong, more and more disciples came. When Wang Yuzhen arrived, there were thousands of people gathered outside. There were also many people who were unable to enter the heavenly pool peak and could only wait outside. Senior apprentice sister, did you see that? I think you shouldn't come here in the future. I don't tolerate outsiders. Wang Yuzhen chatted with Su Fong for a bit. Seeing more and more people come, Su Fong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He even felt a bit annoyed. Fortunately, Wang Yuzhen only came to chat for a while. After bringing Su Fong some items needed for forging, she quickly left with a fragrant smell. My brother. That's my brother. After a while, an extremely familiar voice suddenly caused many disciples outside to take the initiative to make way. It turned out to be baby Huangfu, who came in a hurry. When this guy came here, he also brought a few disciples from the vast ancient mystery dimension. When they saw the disciples of the vast ancient mystery dimension and the well-known baby Huangfu, these disciples still didn't make way. Baby Huangfu entered the formation alone. Under Su Fong's lead, he curiously observed the treasure cauldron and the refining situation inside. He also told Su Fong about his cultivation in the vast ancient mystery dimension. He didn't expect this guy's cultivation to have increased by a few levels. But Su Fong was confident that his strength could be on the same level as baby Huangfu. This time, baby Huangfu had changed a lot. He was different from the previous playboy young master. Although he was still cheerful, he had changed a lot. Many of the disciples outside were disciples of the Celestial Pool Peak. After a few groups of people came to find Su Fong, they found out that Su Fong also had a backer. The two of them came near the treasure cauldron. All right, I was in the same training hall as Nangong Xiao. I also heard that this person used his relationship with the special disciple Li Tianqi to deal with you in the precious tool seeker dimension. This person is really despicable. I will not let Nangong Xiao go sooner or later. I have seen Nangong Xiao and his trash brother. Now that Nangong Xiao has come personally, I am not afraid of him. You don't have to worry about Nangong Xiao. I also just heard that the big shot behind him is called Nangong Tuesday. He was killed in the desolate Lake Astral not long ago. I heard that his death was quite tragic. His corpse couldn't even be found. Nangong Xiao is still crying for his father and mother. But even if Nangong too is dead, isn't there still Li Tianqi? You don't say. This Li Tianqi is really powerful. He is as famous as my big sister. He is also a peerless genius of the same generation. He is a top existence among the special disciples. But I think that without Nangong too, he will not come personally to deal with you. But this person has no bottom line. You still have to be careful. I have to go. Hee, there is one more thing that I have to tell you. Suddenly, baby Huangfu lowered his voice. I heard from my grandfather that our training hall will join forces with Huyen Shinrikyo and a few other peerless sects to hold a joint training in the desolate Lake Astral. At that time, every disciple can sign up. I will also sign up. At that time, you can go too. We can definitely join forces to break into the desolate Lake Astral again. Join forces with a few major forces to hold a joint training in the desolate Lake Astral. I reckon that this matter is still in the planning and has yet to be confirmed. However, there's an extremely high chance that it will happen. Furthermore, it's something that will happen in the next few decades. Therefore, you and I have to make another breakthrough within this extremely short period of time and reach the upper heavenly immortal level. After talking for a while, Su Fong sent baby Huangfu away. When he returned to the cauldron, he immediately focused on baby Huangfu's words. A few major forces are going to the desolate Lake Astral to hold a joint training. But why is it the desolate Lake Astral? Why is it still in the desolate Lake Astral? Obviously, this training is not as simple as it seems. Brother Bao is right. I also have to go to the desolate Lake Astral again. But this is still illusory. I have to become stronger in the treasured artifact mystic realm, upgrade my 3 Dharma treasures, and merge with the purple aura Dharma spirit first. The more the purple aura Dharma spirit fuses with my right arm, the more likely it will spread to my entire body in the future. When that time comes, once I obtain the 3rd part of the purple aura Dharma spirit, I will be able to possess this peerless treasure. Moreover, the purple aura Dharma spirit will also allow me to have amazing refining abilities. He could calm down and continue refining. The sword array had already polished all the materials clean. There was no excess weight or impurities. Refining was the same as refining pills. The amount of materials needed to be distributed properly. Although the amount was not controlled well and would not have a huge impact on the Tao artifact, the quality and ability of the Tao artifact refined would be significantly different. He did not care about the disciples who were watching the show and poured the materials into the treasured cauldron. The disciples outside would exclaim from time to time. From Su Fong's refining speed, to releasing the quintessential fire, to polishing the materials, everything was done in one go. There was almost no excess, especially when releasing the quintessential fire imprint. The quintessential fire fused perfectly with the flames in the treasured cauldron. It looked like Su Fong was refining very easily. The stronger the quintessential fire, the faster the refining speed. The flames were one of the most important factors that determined the quality and speed of the artifact. Other than the flames, there were the various materials and the various imprints. Qin Kuei and Yuan Yi's 2 great disciples would occasionally appear. Other than them, the other Qi Mountain's upper echelon disciples would also frequently come to watch. Now, Su Fong had already become a well-known figure in the treasured artifact mystic realm. The purple aura Dharma spirit has already started to flow into my arm and shoulder. This spatial, great pregnant purple aura has already been absorbed by me. There is not even a bit left in this treasure cauldron. 1 month, a few months continue to pass. While Su Fong was refining, more than half of his attention was on cultivation and absorbing the great pregnant purple aura. Because the purple aura Dharma spirit was constantly absorbing the great pregnant purple aura, a portion of its purple aura had already seeped into his right arm. It was very shocking. Other than this, his body was constantly cultivating the illusory fire cloud and ethereal true interpretation. Coupled with the yin-yang Tao wheel formed by the 18 yang meridians, his strength was about to enter the peak of the heavenly immortal realm. His current cultivation speed was truly terrifying. In this treasured artifact mystic realm, it was impossible to find a person who could refine artifacts quickly and rapidly increase his strength. He was unique. On this day, Su Fong suddenly woke up from his refining state. Not long later, a large number of disciples poured into the cave. There were about a few thousand people. Qin Kuei and Yuan Yi's disciples could only maintain order outside the array formation. Then, more than 10 upper echelons appeared. Although there were no elders like Heavenly Master Luan, each of them were people who kept their word. 10 years. It has only been 6 years. He actually used 6 years to refine a heavenly immortal realm low-grade Tao artifact. It is still uncertain now. He might not succeed even after 6 years. Thousands of disciples were discussing in whispers. Among them, one could see Huangfu Ju, Huangfu Rui, and the other disciples of the heavenly pool peak. Under the supervision of the upper echelons, Su Fong suddenly took out a spirit liquid. He held up a flaming sword with both hands. The spirit liquid splashed on the sword. Instantly, white smoke exploded. One could vaguely see a faint glow. Chapter 1058. The faint multicolored light was the mysterious great pregnant purple chi, as well as other mysterious auras. When the white smoke and multicolored light rose and dissipated, the true fire below had already been extinguished. Countless disciples' gazes were focused on the sword's shadow that vaguely appeared. He succeeded. He actually succeeded. It's only been 6 years. He didn't even need time to refine a low-grade Tao artifact in 6 years. Even our senior brothers would find it difficult to do so. What kind of speed is this? The more realistic the sword shadow was, the more the thousands of disciples exclaimed in admiration. A sparkling and snow-white flying sword, after a few buzzing sounds, landed in front of Su Fong. It quietly floated, emitting an indescribable brilliance. Senior brother, I remember that Elder Luan promised in front of everyone that if he could successfully refine a magic treasure within 10 years, he would be nominated as a special disciple. It's just a nomination. How can he become a special disciple? Right. Which special disciple didn't make peerless contributions? Their cultivation is powerful and their strength is extraordinary. He's a one Tao realm heavenly immortal and can only refine a low-grade Tao artifact. There are too many ways to be nominated as a special disciple. Once he makes a mistake, his status will be gone at any time. Moreover, he will always be a heavenly immortal. Outside the formation, among the spectating disciples, Huangfu Rue was saying something to Huangfu Ju. The two of them didn't have any intention of congratulating Su Fong at all. They clearly wanted him to fail. Huangfu Ju bared his teeth and clenched his fists. Huangfu's young hero degree has increased so much, and I've also figured out the conflict between him and Huangfu Duan. Huangfu Duan will definitely not let him off. If I allow this person to continue growing, it will be too disadvantageous for me. I must eliminate him while he's still in the heavenly immortal realm. A threat. A dignified high-level disciple actually felt a sense of danger from a heavenly immortal disciple. At this moment, not far away, another disciple, Mu Shuo, whose status and strength were much higher than Huangfu Ju's, had a pale face. His expression was very uncertain. His mood was probably similar to Huangfu Ju's. A few of his confidants were also talking nonstop. I really didn't expect this. I thought that this person had the protection of a special disciple like Huangfu Fei, and that I would slowly find an opportunity to get rid of him. However, I didn't expect him to seize such an opportunity and suddenly appear in front of the higher-ups. This Huangfu Shaoying's ability in all aspects is beyond my imagination. He is not an ordinary heaven immortal disciple. Careless, too careless. A heavenly immortal stage cultivator is not qualified to be my enemy. That's why I underestimated him. From now on, I will have to treat him as a disciple of the same level as me. I cannot be careless anymore. If I allow him to grow step by step, judging by his cultivation level and character, I will be able to trample on him time and time again. Once I have a force of my own in the future, I will have no way to survive. Even Mu Shuo hated Su Fong to the bone. The sudden appearance of a disciple in this precious tool's secret realm would affect the interests of many people. Invisibly, Su Fong alone had begun to stir up an undercurrent in the artifact's secret realm. When choosing materials for this flying sword, I will refine an existence with holy qi. In the center of the formation, as Su Fong grabbed the flying sword, the surrounding formation suddenly disappeared. Step by step, he held the flying sword and walked to the front of the higher-ups. The higher-ups also walked toward him, and all of them looked at him with admiration. A heaven immortal disciple who had just entered the precious tool's secret realm could refine 2 low-grade Taoist weapons. Such talent and ability had never appeared in the history of the precious tool's secret realm. The higher-ups publicly praised Su Fong in front of thousands of disciples, and then took him away from the celestial pool peak under everyone's gaze. On the highest mountain in the precious Tool secret realm, there was a group of palaces in the depths. Outside the largest group of palaces, some male and female disciples gathered around and looked in the direction of the celestial pool peak. He's here. He is Huang Fu Shaoying. I really didn't expect that he could refine Taoist weapons when he became the Eternal Star Sun in the Heaven Immortal stage. A disciple who made contributions in the Heaven Immortal stage hasn't appeared for many years. He doesn't look annoying. He looks quite pleasing to the eye. It turned out that these higher-ups heard the commotion and were waiting to see Su Fong. When Su Fong was escorted to the main hall by the higher-ups, it was as if he was the only star in the sky. It was also Su Fong's first time here. He could remember the faces of the higher-ups around him. When he came to the main hall, he saw Elder Luan Tian and many other elders already waiting. He came to the center. Disciple greets the higher-ups. Luan Tian spoke first. It's almost impossible to refine a low-grade Taoist weapon in 6 years, and a Tao realm Heaven Immortal at that. It's rare to hear of a genius like you in the great world. Can you tell me why you can refine in such a short time when you just came to the precious Tool's secret realm? Don't worry, we're not prying into your secrets. We're just cultivating in my dojo, and the higher-ups have the obligation to know everything. Yes, Su Fong felt respect for such an elder, unlike the other elders who were so gloomy. Disciple is actually an ascendant from the lower realm. When I was in the small world, I was already in contact with refining weapons and even refining pills. Therefore, when I came to the great world and stepped into the Heaven Immortal realm, I finally had the ability to refine all kinds of materials. You're an ascendant? Luan Tian was overjoyed. The higher-ups around couldn't imagine what it meant to be an ascendant. They knew very well what it meant to be an ascendant. Although there were many ascendants, every ascendant had cultivated for countless years in the lower realm. They had a certain level of mastery in refining weapons, refining pills, and so on. It was no wonder that even an elder like Luan Tian showed a different kind of appreciation. On the other hand, Su Fong cleverly explained the reason why he knew how to refine weapons without any contradiction, so everyone could only believe it. Luan Tian asked Su Fong to sit down. There are also many ascendants in our dojo, and they're all amazing disciples. Huang Fu Shaoying, you have a lot of potential and experience. Why didn't you tell me that you're an ascendant before you came? Disciple doesn't know much about the constellation of 9 heavens, nor about the treasured artifact secret realm. I don't know if what I did in the small world would work, so I decided to come to the treasured artifact secret realm to take a look first. After all these years of familiarizing myself with all kinds of raw stones, materials, and secret manuals, I dare to try refining weapons. Like a lowly disciple, Su Fong was extremely humble, but I tried it secretly. I was afraid that other disciples would laugh at me, so I secretly began to polish materials and used magic treasures to refine materials one by one. After turning them into melted materials, I dared to refine them in the cauldron. Fortunately, the Star Heavenly Square Sword was successful. Disciple felt that I should have the ability to refine weapons, so I openly came to see the elders. It's very easy for you. From now on, you're no longer an ordinary Eternal Star Sun, but a nominated special disciple. The 2 magic treasures you refined are 2 merits, and you're an ascendant. We have rules here. The first magic treasure refined by every disciple will be sealed in the sacred hall of the dojo for people to see. It won't be handed over to the sect and distributed to those disciples. After Luan Tian finished speaking, he took out Su Fong's token in front of the higher-ups and began to release true fire again. After a few moments, the token changed its appearance. It still had a shocking star aura, but there were a few immortal words on it. Nominated Special Disciple of the Treasured Artifact Secret Realm. This token was too valuable. With this token, his status was the same as Mu Shuo, and even the same as Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifang, because he was no longer an ordinary disciple, but a nominated special disciple. When the token returned to Su Fong's hand, because at this moment, he was no longer a small figure and an ordinary disciple. The surrounding higher-ups were also nodding. Luan Tian Master continued, "You also have to constantly encourage yourself. The nomination of special disciple is just the beginning. There are still registered special disciples and official special disciples. To become a special disciple, you have to be down to earth and endure loneliness. You have to face the cauldron all day long. Cultivation is secondary. Do you have any other requests? Disciple has 2 requests. Disciple hopes to freely enter and leave every pond peak, so that I can observe everyone refining. Disciple can refine tools, but my refining methods are insufficient. Disciple knows what my weakness is. Only by observing and imitating can I improve. This is experience. Therefore, I ask the higher-ups to allow disciple to go to every pond peak. Second, disciple wants to go out and see more, collect some special materials, and use experience to continuously cultivate and refine tools. In the future, disciple will often enter and leave the Tao Hall and cultivate outside for a long time. I thought you would have some requirements, but you already have them. You're a nominated special disciple, and you've already successfully refined 2 Tao tools. In the treasure tool secret domain, except for some places where you have to report to the higher-ups, you can come and go as you please. Every disciple shouldn't be locked up in a Tao Hall. Even if you want to go out for a walk, that's not important. But to become an official disciple, you have to refine a low-grade Tao tool within 100 years and hand it over to the sect. Disciple understands. Elder, don't worry. Disciple will promptly hand over the Tao weapon to the sect. Disciple will definitely do his duty. You also have to change to another Tao Hall. This treasure artifact secret realm is a ruin. You can find any place to build an immortal cave. If you have any other matters, you can directly come here and look for the higher-ups. Does disciple have to report to the extreme heaven pool peak often? No need, no need. The extreme heaven pool peak is just a place for ordinary disciples to cultivate. The rules also vary from person to person. However, you don't have an artifact cauldron for refining tools, so you still have to go inside the pond peak. With your current lack of achievements, the sect will not bestow you with an artifact cauldron. Many thanks, Elder. Everything that needed to be said had been said clearly. With a shake of his body, Su Fong was no longer an ordinary disciple that everyone could step on. After bidding farewell to the elder, he returned to the extreme heaven pool peak. When he arrived at the valley, he did not expect that many Huangfu Tao Hall's disciples would be waiting for him in his immortal cave. In the past, these disciples had a different expression. They did not want to have anything to do with Su Fong. But now, when they saw Su Fong return, they took the initiative to welcome him. They were full of congratulations and even gave him all kinds of things. Su Fong chased these people away. However, he did not see disciples like Huangfu Rui and Huangfu Ju. They were probably fuming in their own immortal caves. After packing up everything in the immortal cave and putting away the formation, the immortal cave became an empty place. Under the gazes of many disciples, Su Fong left the valley of the extreme heaven pool peak and flew for a while. Along the way, he did not sense any immortal caves located in the mountains or valleys. Not long after, in a broken wasteland, a plateau piled up with ruins attracted Su Fong's attention. When he came here, he took out a large amount of immortal stones and threw them into the ruins. He used the constellation of 9 heavens to form a large formation. His heavenly immortal realm cultivation allowed him to have a certain amount of divine abilities that experts had. He also grasped a certain amount of heaven and earth essence and the method of borrowing the stars. These ruins were very far away from those imperial bestowments. He could set up a Tao Hall here without worry and cultivate here. After everything was set up, a starlight formation took root in the ruins. Sitting cross-legged in the Tao Hall, he no longer felt threatened. Moreover, from now on, it was time for him to truly cultivate the purple Qi Dharma spirit and primordial purple Qi. Chapter 1059. After sitting cross-legged and cultivating for a while, he gradually got used to being in this huge, barren world. Su Fong could also cultivate here to his heart's content, using the power of the perfect realm and various supernatural powers. Amazing, there's a shocking power of the world in the depths of the ruins. I heard that the Star Palace's dojo was originally an ancient ruin. Obviously, The outer and inner dojos were built on the surface. There must be some mysterious dojos of the Star Palace underground. Below is the real Star Palace. I don't need to care about other things. I can slow down on refining. My goal is to absorb the great pregnant purple gas to become stronger. It's time to break through to the heavenly, immortal realm. After getting used to it for a few months, after settling down, he took out some elixirs and started to break through his body. He also secretly transformed the dust into a cauldron, giving a large number of junior commanders and demonic immortals elixirs. Especially Tong Ba. Su Fong kept giving him high-grade elixirs. This big goblin and the gorilla demon were Su Fong's basic methods to deal with experts like Huang Fuju and Mu Shua. Of course, he was also secretly merging with the two puppet golems left behind by a Shan ancient demon. He was also cultivating the heavenly devil blood plate. In this way, with the heavenly devil blood plate, puppet golems, Tong Ba, and gorilla demon combined, it wouldn't be a problem to kill Nangong too, let alone Mu Shua. If Nangong too wasn't injured, he would only die when facing these four methods. This was also the reason why Su Fong could boldly refine and amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Xian Huang 6 Paths Pagoda, Starry Daylight Sword, and Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd are also constantly breaking through in quality. They are at the same level as my strength and realm. I don't know why, but as the purple chi Dharma spirit keeps devouring the great pregnant purple gas, it's not only easy for me to refine, it's also much easier to raise the quality of the three magic treasures. It's as if I can control everything. Could it also be related to the purple chi Dharma spirit? Luo's explanation last time might be because I absorbed too much great pregnant purple chi, causing the purple chi Dharma spirit to constantly fuse with my physical body. During the process of fusion, the purple chi Dharma spirit's ability and the great pregnant purple chi's ability are also quietly fusing with my physical body. In this way, my physical body will have two great abilities which will allow my body to change, as well as the matter and power related to my body. A Xianguang was released. The Xianguang 6 Paths Pagoda, the Starry Daylight Sword, and the Flaming Cloud Spirit Gourd floated in the Xianguang. Their magic treasures had all reached a very high level of middle-grade Dao tools. Their overall strength was the same as Su Fong's. Upon closer inspection, he found that there were several special gems inside the Xianguang 6 Paths Pagoda. Because of this, its ability in space had been greatly enhanced. The Starry Daylight Sword's transformation was also very shocking. As its quality continued to increase, the aura that surged out was almost the power of the world. It had become a true star state. Looking at the Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd again, it had already fused with a lot of illusory fire clouds, and the interior was a sea of fire. Luo suddenly said, "Your Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd, when it steps into the upper grade magic treasure level, its function will be similar to that of a cauldron. You can directly use the Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd to refine weapons, and your flying sword has already been contaminated with the mysterious power of the world in your body. Once it is used, it can kill people without leaving a trace. The Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd can be used to refine weapons." This sentence shocked Su Fongda. You know too little about refining weapons. You can refine weapons now, but you don't know the pinnacle of refining weapons. I have seen those masters who can refine weapons with their rings, or even their bodies. The body can refine weapons. Could it be a special true body? As you think, some cultivators have extraordinary physical bodies, or after swallowing the power of fire, they can create a space in their bodies and refine magic treasures below their realm. Once your Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd becomes an upper-grade magic treasure, it can naturally refine lower-grade magic treasures. I didn't expect the Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd to have such a function. This is too timely. In that case, I will let the Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd become an upper-grade Dao tool as soon as possible. Then, I won't have to buy a cauldron. Every time Luo spoke, Su Fong would benefit a lot. Luo then said, "It can be said that your cultivation speed is astonishing, and your ability is constantly transforming. This is the result of you coming to the constellation of 9 heavens and absorbing a large amount of great pregnant purple chi, stimulating the purple chi dharma spirit's ability. The purple chi dharma spirit has such a wonderful ability. It is formed by absorbing luck and the spirit of heaven and earth. It has an unfathomable ability that represents the heavenly Tao. It is causing your ability to expand to a height that has never been reached before. Only you can reach this height. No one else, not even the immortal emperor, can reach this height. Chi at this point, a shocking tribulation aura surged out of his body. The tribulation aura suddenly turned into flames. A large area was burning fiercely in the array Tao field. He was about to break through. He stopped cultivating and tried to break through again. After countless times, the tribulation fire swept out with a whoosh, forming a prairie fire, almost tearing apart the condensed array. In the tribulation fire, the promotion began to take shape and the familiar impurities began to surge out. During this period of time, he had focused on refining weapons and wanted to obtain everything from the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. He did not put his energy into cultivation. That was why it took him so long to break through the first Tao realm and step into the second Tao realm. There was a burst of wantonly impact, pain, and confusion. When the tribulation fire disappeared, Su Fang's body emitted a peaceful and tranquil spiritual light. One could see that the spiritual light was divided into 2 layers, the inner and outer layers protecting Su Fang. Using his perception power, he first saw 2 Tao marks in his dantian. The golden origin core and even the heavenly cave had 2 Tao marks. The inside and outside of his body, the flesh membrane, and the divine aperture all had 2 Tao marks. The second Tao realm, the heavenly cave, was deeper. The world power of the golden origin core was also very harmful. It cannot be compared to the world fragment and the 18 yang veins, but it was also full of energy. Now, the 2 Tao marks intertwined inside and outside of his body, giving off a divine might. Looking at the world fragment, the absorption and release of the world power of yin and yang had also sped up. It had perfectly merged with the yin-yang Tao wheel formed by the 18 yang veins. This made Su Fang's body have an endless amount of energy, just like the cycle of heaven and earth. After cultivating for half a year, he created a clone and let it guard the Tao field. His main body immediately entered the void dust cauldron. Inside the cauldron transformation, Su Fang's body suddenly exploded. His skin spurted out blood, and his body instantly collapsed. It turned into a shocking amount of blood that was close to 10 feet. Yellow Spring Blood Sea. This was a cultivation method that Su Fang had to cultivate and master. Only by mastering it could he go to the Tao field of Yin Xianlu and Yellow Spring Devil Emperor. Moreover, the Yellow Spring Blood Sea was incomparably terrifying. Su Fang also had to master this kind of physical ability. Now, in addition to the 9 Yang 9 transformations, Illusory Fire Cloud, Ethereal Truth, and Heaven's Secret Life Shrinking Technique, the Yellow Spring Blood Sea was the most important sacred ability that Su Fang had to cultivate. This time, Su Fang did not expect that not long after condensing a human face, he would suddenly sit up from the blood and grow a body, arms, and legs. However, his legs were still fused with the blood and could not be separated. It seemed that by constantly cultivating the Yellow Spring Blood Sea, there was still progress. Moreover, he had also obtained the power left behind by the 100 Virtues Ancient Demon, which would have a great impact on cultivating the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. The blood began to burn and bubble. After settling for a period of time, a large number of pills were melted by the cauldron transformation, turning into liquid and pouring into the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. There were also some spiritual objects that were absorbed by the blood. This scene made Su Fang look like an evil demon, a great devil. The first ability of the Yellow Spring Blood Sea is to devour. What a terrifying devouring ability. With such an ability, I estimate that it is not inferior to the ghouls. Once I can completely control the Yellow Spring Blood Sea, not only can I use it for cultivation, but I can also use it to deal with strong enemies. Su Fang began to form seals. Although it was very slow, a divine might cause the bubbling blood to enter a solidified state. It turned out that Su Fong was cultivating the yellow spring blood sea's ability. Soon, from the bubbling blood, a shocking amount of blood lotus-like blood threads began to emerge. In the past, only a few dozen black lotus blood threads could grow, but now hundreds of them slowly grew. They were bustling in the blood like weeds that grew in the wasteland, lacking in nutrients. But as he continued to work hard, more and more black lotus blood threads grew in the blood. There are thousands of them, but they were only a foot long. After cultivating for a long time, the black lotus blood threads disappeared. Su Fong began to mobilize the yellow spring blood sea to condense magic power and true qi. Immortal seals seeped out from the blood. This was the state of the blood. Su Fong formed seals in the blood. After the seals emerged, magic power and true qi also seeped out, but it was illusory. After a while, the seals that emerged unexpectedly floated above the blood, forming dozens of half-foot-long flying swords. He succeeded. Su Fong was so happy that he could not control those flying swords. They instantly shattered one by one. The heavens do not disappoint those who persevere. I can finally barely mobilize the yellow spring blood sea to use the divine ability. Although the divine ability is not comparable to half of an immortal strength, it seems that I have successfully taken a step forward. If this continues, I will gradually become familiar with controlling the yellow spring blood sea. Now that he could use the divine ability, Su Fong's smile was not relaxed at all. From the time he cultivated the yellow spring blood sea until now, he had experienced so much pain. The cultivation process of the yellow spring blood sea was like a trip to hell for Su Fong. Only now did he have some obvious results. Now I can control a part of the yellow spring blood sea. I should be able to directly throw in the pills and swallow them. After the yellow spring blood sea improved, he thought for a while and took out 100 mid-grade immortal essence pills and threw them into the blood. Within the blood, Su Fong could sense boundless life force, true energy, and godly might wrapping around the medicinal pills inside of him. These life force, true qi, divine power, and seals had to be activated by him. Otherwise, his yellow spring blood, sea, could not absorb the pills quickly. Whoosh, whoosh. Although the fusion of the pills was not too shocking, he could finally control the yellow spring blood sea to start swallowing the pills. After cultivating for a long time, Su Fong leaped up and disappeared into the yellow spring blood sea after reaching a certain level, leaving the junior commanders, slaves, and demon immortals to cultivate inside. Inside the training hall, Su Fong sucked the void dust into his palm, leaving a clone behind. He flew toward the celestial pool peak alone. The speed increased. With the power of a heaven immortal, Su Fong could roam freely in the dojo of Star Palace. Moreover, with his consummate power, he could cover many mountains. In this dojo, he could sense some primordial purple qi floating in the depths of nature. It's Huangfu Shaoying, Celestial Pool Peak. Su Fong came to the entrance of the cave and chatted with Huang Liao for a while. Then, he found Lu Feng and gave him a lot of medicinal pills. Many disciples felt as if they were looking at a stranger when they saw him. Ignoring these people, he arrived in front of a spatial karst cave, activated a hand seal, and stepped into it. There were 3 treasured cauldrons inside, and quite a few high-level disciples were staring at the surroundings. When they saw Su Fong suddenly enter, although they were unhappy, they knew that Su Fong's status was different now, so they didn't say anything. Coming to the side of the cauldron, Su Fong took out some materials and threw them into the cauldron. It looked like he was refining, but it was actually a cover. He was blatantly absorbing the great pregnant purple qi in the cauldron. Chapter 1060. The great pregnant purple vapor in the cauldron was very shocking. Su Fong was refining openly and generously extracting the great pregnant purple vapor from the cauldron. After some time, he took out the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda, the Starry Daylight Sword, and the Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd and threw them into the cauldron. At this moment, some disciples were observing his actions. Someone suddenly stared at the Flaming Cloud Spiritual Gourd in the cauldron. Junior brother Huang Fu, that gourd of your three artifacts is not bad. It is not an artifact made of material, but a wood elemental spiritual treasure. Although it is only of medial grade quality, it is more precious than a typical superior grade Dao artifact. The flaming cloud spiritual gourd was naturally not bad. Su Fong only responded with a few cheerful words. Then, he continued to seemingly continue refining and melting the materials, but in fact he was mainly focusing on improving the three magic treasures. With the cauldron, flames, and unlimited spiritual energy, all he needed to improve the three artifacts was some special materials and Su Fong's own strength. He was also a rich man now. He could get whatever he wanted. He took out some good origin stones and secretly burned them. They were all turned into liquid and poured into the three artifacts. If this continued, Su Fong's strength was improving. He was also absorbing the great pregnant purple vapor and increasing the overall strength of his artifacts. This was why he had to come to the treasure mystic realm to become a genius. Gradually, his strength reached the normal state of a heaven immortal. The three artifacts were also improving. He kept pouring in special materials. As for the purple vapor Dharma spirit, it had connected his entire right arm. From his 5 fingers to his shoulder, it was filled with the purple vapor Dharma spirit's magical power and the flowing great pregnant purple vapor. Although the great pregnant purple vapor was not as strong as quintessential qi, Su Fong could feel it in his right arm because he had absorbed a lot of it in the purple vapor Dharma spirit. In less than half a year, he had absorbed all the great pregnant purple vapor in the cauldron. He could only absorb the great pregnant purple vapor from the other 2 cauldrons. After being nominated as a special disciple, no one came to find trouble with him anymore. Even disciples like Mu Shuo could not order him to do anything. He did not need to listen to Qing Kuei and Yuan Yifang's words, unless they were really high-level people like the elders. Buzz buzz. A while later, Su Fong was almost done absorbing the primordial violet qi from the other 2 cauldrons. Suddenly, some mysterious Tao runes from fate flashed in his mind. Heavenly secret life, shrinking technique. With such a commotion, Su Fong immediately sucked all the treasures out of the cauldron and then left the mountain in a flash. At this moment, Su Fong, who was floating in the sky of the precious item mystic realm, looked at the layers of formations in astonishment. Then, the heaven secret life, shrinking art, and some Tao runes appeared in his mind. Someone is sensing my aura. Su Fong discovered something. There are often people sensing my aura in the Star Palace, but they are all people with the aura of the stars. Normally, they are people like Huang Fu Peak, Baby Huang Fu Yinhai, Huang Fu Duan, etc. These people are used to sensing my fate. But suddenly, this feeling came from outside the dojo. Someone is sensing my aura from outside the dojo, and it is a very unfamiliar aura. Who is it? Suddenly, a sharp aura condensed in his heart, and it made him hide his aura domineeringly. He quickly left the inner dojo and flew out of the precious item mystic realm. My aura is getting weaker. Not only the central dojo, but the Tao runes of fate in his mind were also fading a little. He was very anxious. He guessed that the other party had sensed his aura and was hiding it. Increasing his speed to the maximum, he finally passed through the dojo in a 12 breaths time and arrived at the other side of the constellation of 9 heavens. This direction was behind the ancient ruins. Somewhere in the depths of the opposite side was another world, the immortal Ao Great World. When he flew out of the dojo, he left the floating dojo and arrived in the starry sky. His great perfection ability and the heaven's secret life shrinking technique were pushed to the maximum. He looked at a nebula a few miles away. An unfamiliar aura of fate was there, and his great perfection ability sensed that there were 2 people inside. 2 experts. Concealing aura. This was the first time Su Fong had used the heaven's secret life shrinking technique. His aura, his fate, his vital energy, and everything about him had disappeared. He, who was void, was a void dust, and had cultivated the ethereal true record, merged all these abilities together, and he existed without any aura. He slowly approached the nebula, and his great perfection ability gradually penetrated the nebula. When he was less than 5 miles away, he finally saw 2 cultivators in the depths of the nebula. These 2 were middle-aged men, and they looked like they were in their 40s. Judging by their attire, they were not disciples of the Star Palace, nor were they disciples of the big factions that Su Fong knew of. After observing for a while, it was a pity that the nebula was too complicated and his hearing was obstructed. He could not hear anything, and the 2 turned and flew towards the deep void. These 2 people came to the Star Palace, sensed my aura from afar, and spied on my existence. It is obvious that they are here for me. I remember that I do not have many enemies, especially in the great deity domain. There are only experts like Bai Tsubing, and the monk Shangde is not an enemy. As for the other enemies, they are only from the lower domain. Are these 2 people related to me? Or are they related to the Divine Palace Young Master where Red Kite is? I cannot let them go so easily. I have to at least find out where these people came from and why they came to the Star Palace to find me. He made up his mind and summoned his feather fan. He controlled the feather fan and flew towards the depths of the void with the speed of the 2 experts. Gradually, he realized that the 2 were flying towards the Xian'ao Great World. Xian'ao Great World. Wasn't that the world where 7-Star Child, Huang Lingyao, and 7-Star Child were at? Of course, he heard that the experts who ascended from the Xinyuan Empire were also at the Xian'ao Great World. He followed them for a whole month and left the void at the constellation of 9 heavens. Su Fong had never set foot in this star sector before. All the places he went were worlds on the other side of the Star Palace. He opened the map and saw that there was a dangerous place not far ahead. There were many cultivators gathered there, and it was considered a gathering place for cultivators in this void. It was called Purple Moon Desolate City. Purple Moon Desolate City was not big, but it was a place in the middle of the border between the Xian'ao Great World and the Yuan Lu Great World. It was a rather famous dangerous place. Cultivators from the 2 great worlds would come and go, and most of them would choose this place. Cultivators from a Xian'ao Great World who wanted to go to the desolate Swamp Star realm would also pass by Purple Moon Desolate City. The 2 of them are going to Purple Moon Desolate City. I will overtake them and step into Purple Moon Desolate City first. Su Fong suddenly thought of something. He used the devil chi to change his aura and changed his appearance. He turned into an ordinary middle-aged devil cultivator. Stepping on the feather fan, his speed increased by more than 5 times. With the feather fan controlling all kinds of complicated forces in the void, Su Fong gradually caught up with the 2 of them. He flew from the other side of the void and quickly flew towards Purple Moon Desolate City. Not long after, he saw the Purple Moon Desolate City. It looked similar to the Heavenly Earth Desolate City, but the general color was purple. It was a place that was different from the others. The purple halo of stars dyed the star field purple. Purple Moon Desolate City was a floating continent, but most of it was in ruins. There was a majestic forest plateau in the interior. He could sense the aura of tens of thousands of cultivators surging from the depths. He found a rock and hid. After waiting for 10 breaths, the 2 experts who were secretly following him also stepped into the top of the forest. When they entered the depths and entered a mountainside with many pavilions, Su Fong also came to a large number of cultivators and followed them to a restaurant. The restaurant had 2 floors. There were many guests, and the waiters were too busy. When they arrived at the main hall, the 2 experts were waiting in the corner. Su Fong also found a small table. Not long after he sat down, a few more cultivators came and sat around the 2 experts. At this moment, Su Fong also pricked up his ears and watched their every move with his perfect vision. There were a total of 6 people dressed the same. The 2 experts who were following them began to talk. We followed the information that the Chamber of Commerce's spies gathered with great difficulty and went to the constellation of 9 heavens to investigate for a period of time. The spies' information is almost correct. The Su Fong that Emperor Ning's mansion is looking for should be in the constellation of 9 heavens. Now, his name is Huangfu Shaoying. How can we be sure? We only secretly asked the disciples of the constellation of 9 heavens about this. Now, we are almost certain. that's not enough. Since our Chamber of Commerce accepted the mission from Emperor Ning's mansion, we have to find the person that they are looking for no matter what. There's only one way. Either we meet Huangfu Shaoying personally, or we catch a few disciples of Star Palace and interrogate them. This time, we came here from the immortal AO Great World, mainly to carry out this mission. It was not easy to find this person in the vicinity of the Desolate Swamp Astral World and in the Purple Moon Desolate City. As long as it is confirmed, our mission will be completed. Emperor Ning's mansion is generous. Once we carry out this mission, we can rest for a few years. Everyone, cultivate for a few days. The next step is to catch a few disciples of Star Palace. They're a big force and not easy to deal with. The 6 of us have to take action together. Otherwise, if something goes wrong, we in the Chamber of Commerce will be in big trouble. That's true. Star Palace is a big force that we can't afford to offend. This is good. Su Fong pricked up his ears and listened. At this moment, he shivered. The 6 experts actually came for him, and it seemed that they had been secretly asking around Star Palace. Just thinking about it made him scared. Fortunately, these people released their sensing power to penetrate Star Palace. Otherwise, Su Fong would not have found out. Emperor Ning's mansion. An inexplicable name suddenly popped up. Knowing that the 6 of them would stay here for a few days, he secretly used his complete realm ability to absorb their aura into his body. Then, he quietly left the restaurant. He found a Chamber of Commerce and bought all the information about Emperor Ning's mansion. It would be better if he did not see it. Once he saw it, he gasped. Emperor Ning's mansion. Perhaps no one in the immortal world would know of these 3 words. But this force was in Xianao Great World, and even in the world outside Yuan Lu Great World, it was a top force that everyone knew. Even the constellation of 9 heavens could not be compared to Emperor Ning's mansion. Emperor Ning's mansion was deep in the back of Xianao Great World, deep in a desolate territory. It was a force because Emperor Ning's mansion had a famous peerless king in the immortal world, Emperor Ning. Just by hearing the name, one would know that this person was an immortal emperor. In the great world, immortal emperors were the supreme venerables. Among many materials, there were introductions about Emperor Ning, but the real information was very little. Most of them were records of his deeds. For example, millions of years ago, Emperor Ning was famous all over the world. As time passed, very few people knew about his existence. But Emperor Ning's mansion had built many empires and forces in Xianao Great World. On the surface, it was only a force, but it secretly controlled many empires. It was the most powerful force in Xianao Great World. It was even recorded in an ancient book that Tranquility Emperor had suppressed a divine dragon a long time ago and had taken the divine dragon as his mount.